Hello, YouTube, and welcome to the third Physique review stream. Again, I got 20 entries, some tremendous physiques. We have the first woman physique that is going to be reviewed today. Hopefully, the first of many, because I also encourage women to send their physiques because while the majority of people watching are men, we also want to inspire women to become the best versions of themselves. I'm going to do my absolute best to be high energy. I don't know if you guys can tell. I am very, very sick. I've been sick for a while now. I don't quite understand what is going on. My stomach is not treating me well, and it's really fucking with my bulk because I can't really eat. Does this have to do with the fact that I just spent an hour yesterday doing weighted carries in a snowstorm? Absolutely not. There can't be a correlation between someone spending an hour in sub-zero temperature in the snow and then the next day them being sick. There must be something else at play. We'll see what the mystery is, but I'm uh, I'm holding on. So I have a mighty banana with me. If I start to feel faint, this will save my ass, literally at some point, and I have some water. So if you see me starting to get into a manic state, it's because I'm powering through this shit. Please remind me to drink water if possible, because I know that when I get into these states, I am not really myself. No garlic. You're pointing out something interesting here. So unfortunately, I have not been consuming garlic for like 10 days, and I think that this has something to do with it. Like this is personally, it's my take on this, but I find it very peculiar that I've not been sick in the past 15 years, and I stop eating garlic for 10 days and I start getting sick. There's a correlation here. So the garlic will make a return. It's just that I haven't been able to get my hands on good quality garlic for some reason. Lunar asks, NH, how do you deal with your lats shaving against your arms while doing dips? They don't. So it's not an issue because when I do my dips, I do a bulldog grip where I turn my elbows outward a bit to be able to get more chest. So it's not an issue. AG1 sponsorship coming. I doubt it. Don't forget to plug the laptop. Thank you for that. The plug is right there. Please remind me again in 20 minutes. Hello, everyone. Second stream of the week. The first was philosophy. Today is going to be hypertrophy. So we're going to review 20 physiques that have already been sent to me. You cannot submit your physique for this stream. You will be able to in the future. In February, there's going to be another one. I'm going to take a little break from these streams because they take a lot of energy and work. But if you want a written review, which tends to be very helpful, I've written like maybe close to 100 now, and people tell me that they really help. So if you want a written review, you can go on the coffee page. It's in the description, and just ask directly. And I'm also going to put the coffee page directly in the chat if you want to ask a question, if we have the time to get to questions. Boom. And we're going to start the physique reviews. I'm going to start getting into it in like 10-ish minutes to give people time to get here. I like your shirt. Thank you very much. And I'm going to read your questions. And Edge, do you think there'll be a point where you can't handle the amount of DMs? It's a possibility. So far, I've been able to help pretty much everyone that has been reaching out. I've had some people who go a little bit too hard in this, where they like send me hundreds of messages, at which point it's like, yeah, I can't really help you with that. Do you think weight loss is more than calories in, calories out? No. On the base level, no. It's a simple math calculation, and I think it's actually quite dangerous to say that it's not, because then it gives people an excuse to not lose the weight. So on the base level, if you're overweight, yeah, you just need to eat less. After that, there are certain peculiarities, I would say, of the type of macros and micros you get in, how your body reacts to the loss of weight, etc., etc. But this is rare. The majority of people don't really need that. What are your thoughts on the show guy memes? Well, just like every single meme that becomes massive, I think it's stupid. And it's always so interesting and so revealing about people's personalities that they latch onto these things, because to me, it shows that you don't have your own sense of humor, because the meme is not funny. The majority of memes are not funny. What is the stream about today? It's in the title. It's a physique review. How do you tell if any of the viewers are on steroids? That is a great question. We actually have an entry today of someone who, the first time I saw their physique, I was like, wow, that's someone who's not natural. They told me they were natural. We're going to see. I give people the benefit of the doubt. To me, if you are enhanced and you submit a physique to a channel named Natural Hypertrophy and you lie about your natural status, I mean, it's on you. You're an idiot. You're going to just like look ridiculous. Have we got women this time? One. We have one girl that actually sent her physique. And do you agree with Dostoevsky or Nietzsche on the subject of nihilism? I'm much more versed on what Nietzsche has to say about it, so I would say Nietzsche. To me, the chill guy becoming popular signifies society's passivity. Yeah, it's interesting that it does seem to be linked to Stoicism, like a watered down version of Stoicism. And I watched a video where you mentioned a documentary in which they looked for the roided guys that trained with Arnold in pumping iron. What's it called? I wouldn't be able to tell you. I'd have to like go and look it up. I know it's very famous, and it might even be in pumping iron. I don't remember, because keep in mind that pumping iron, the majority of people have seen a shortened version of the documentary, but there is a longer version. When you men's, not anytime soon. How long do you think you will continue streaming going forward? You mean today or in my life in general? Today, we are together for 3 hours, just like always. In my life, it's highly going to depend of if whether or not I can make this sustainable or not. I know that I enjoy it, but unfortunately in life, you can't just do things that you enjoy. There's something called the bills. When should I move up in volume, like from novice programs to intermediate? I know you said when progress stops, but can I expect progress to really stop one day? No, but there will be signs. Like most novice programs are based off of linear progression, which is great, with minimal exercise selection and minimal volume, which is also great. Eventually, that stops being enough. And so you start needing to introduce new exercises, new days, more frequency, more volume. And this is when, to me, you become an intermediate. But this is all based on programming, of course. Because then Predator asks, at what numbers am I an intermediate 2025 bench? And this is, to me, an aspect of strength standards that I don't like, which is to use that to correlate it to, are you an intermediate or not? It means nothing. Because I know people who benched 225 pounds within 2 weeks of starting the gym, and others who it took them 2 years. Why is the guy who spent 2 weeks now an intermediate? Because he has biogenetics for strength, or he's more gifted? It's ridiculous. I used to know a guy who got to a close to a 4-plate bench, a 5-plate squat, and a 6-plate deadlift. And in my view, the guy was still a novice because he had a novice program, he had a novice understanding of training, he had a novice work capacity. He just so happened to be gifted for strength. And as you still use or advocate for evolving rep ranges? Yes, every single one of my program is evolving rep ranges, and to me, I don't understand why a program wouldn't have them. To the point where the majority of programs nowadays have evolving rep ranges, they just don't call them that. I think I'm the only person who calls them that, so it might be me who's the weird guy here. Why do my legs grow so fast but my upper body doesn't? Because in the wise words of Jason Genova, if you have the lower body but you don't have the upper body, then you don't have the upper body. But if you have the upper body but you don't have the lower body, then you have the lower body. Does that make sense? Would it help to give strength numbers on the physique review? People can send their lifts if they want to flex, but very few people do. Can you explain moving rep ranges? Last time you discussed them, I got confused. It's so easy to understand. Every single one of your lifts in your program has a rep range. Every single one of them. So 6 to 10, for example, that is your rep range. Then we have to talk about the evolving part. How does that evolve? It's very simple as well. You're going to come in and your goal is going to try and find a weight that keeps you within that rep range, 6 to 10. And you're going to go forward like this. But eventually you won't be able to just add weight every session. So what do? You look at the rep range. So maybe week 1, you get 6 and 7 reps, and then you get 7 and 8 reps the next week. Your rep range is evolving. You're going upwards. Once you start hitting the ceiling of that rep range, so you get 10 reps on set 1, that's it. You move forward in weight, but you stay within that rep range. You do not change the rep range or else you kill the system. Many people seem to be highly confused by this. And people are like, well, how many sets do I have to hit the top of the rep range? The answer is 1. 1. Once you hit that top, then you go up in weight and you stay within a rep range and you just keep doing that ad infinitum. And this is what I call unlimited hypertrophy, because you'll find that with the system, yeah, sure, you won't add weight every single session, but you'll get a PR pretty much every session. I'm 15 years into training. I still get multiple PRs every session. It is rare that I have a session where I get no rep PRs. And if you like accumulate all of these rep PRs, eventually what do you find? You find that you get weight PRs. What is the best for hypertrophy, dips versus bench press? It depends on what you like. I think that the two are fairly equal. I think that the dip is a better overall builder of triceps and shoulders for the majority of people if you can handle it. Some people apparently dips destroy their shoulders. I'm not one such people. For me, it's the opposite. And H1, you're going to take the gardening pill. I was supposed to start a garden this summer and I just got lazy. Thoughts on hammer preacher curl fat grip? I do not like the fat grip on the hammer curl at all because to me, you turn a great brachioradialis exercise into a grip exercise, and that's just not its place. The fat grips do best, in my view, on vertical pulls, so pull-ups, and on supinated movements. So fat grips bicep curls make a lot of sense. Fat grips hammer curls, not so much. Fat grips also are great for triceps. So if you do your V-bar extensions, for example, or your skull crushers, try slapping on fat grips. It makes it much more comfortable on the wrist and also the elbow. So if you have tendinitis when you train triceps, that could be a way. Longest you've gone without working out? Ever since I was 14, never more than a week. And like a week would already be like very severe. Now, as I am right now, I train every 24 hours. Not necessarily for bodybuilding, but I have to be physically active every single day or else my mental health just tanks. And it might be something that I realized recently. It's not that I'm depressed when I don't train, it's that I am highly vital and I'm energized when I train. And so since my standard of vitality and mental health is so high, whenever I don't have that fix anymore, I feel horrible. And I just don't like myself in those days. This is why I hate rest days, but I have to take them. I cannot train hard every day. So instead, I do weighted carries. Do you train pelvic floor? No, that would be weird. Average time reading per week for me, 12 to 15 hours per week. That's what I do the most is read. NH, I get accused of roids by guy in my age at the gym help. They fucking suck because I saw your physique and you look good, but you don't look roids good. But again, that's a question of standards. And maybe I should make a video about standards. People's standards are so low nowadays. How could I work on my wrist tendonitis? I believe it's because of overuse and press movements. Well, you already know then. You have to reduce the overuse via certain variations of exercises. And wrist tendonitis can also benefit from doing some wrist curls with high reps. Rice bucket also works. Do you read only paper or in iPad? I don't like reading off of a screen, so for me, it's only paper. I like the book. I like the ritual having a book in my hands. It's very important to me. Yeah, manga is the one exception where I will read off of a screen because unfortunately, where I live now, it's impossible to get your hands on manga. In France, it's the country of manga where we consume a lot of it. We actually for a very long time were number 2. It was Japan number 1 and France number 2. So that says a lot. But where I live, it's impossible. Tips on how to read books faster and how to process the information faster. Just read a lot. I suppose read in places where you don't have any distraction. Take notes. That really helps with digesting the information. Write essays. If you're really a try-hard, you can write essays. What's the time by you? It's 2:20 right now. How do you remember what you read? You read it many times. Every single time I present a book to you guys, I've read that book a bare minimum of 5 times. And out of the 5 times, I actually took one time where I took notes and I wrote essays on the book. Do you think reading is a sort of escaping from your reality? It can very well be, unless you apply the consume theory, apply in action mindset, which is what I do. NH, are there any muscles you have stopped training for or that you are happy with size? No. Every single muscle I still want bigger, but I have priorities. So shoulders, triceps, forearms, priorities, because I want these muscles to blow the fuck up. Calves. Something like quads, but this is also the thing too. Usually the muscles that you don't care about because they're already big enough, regardless of what you do, they'll keep growing. So my quads grow so fast and I do like 3 to 6 sets for them a week. Whereas I will like hammer my shoulders with like 14, 15 sets a week, and they cannot match the rate of progression because a strong point will always be a strong point and a weak point will always be a weak point. You can only balance so much. What's your reverse curl weight? I used to do them with very mediocre form, and I went up to 100 pounds. Then I realized, oh, you're ego lifting again. The cycle of life as a bodybuilder. So I dropped down and I use proper form, and I think I'm doing it with 70 pounds, something like this. I thought you like small shoulders. I like small shoulders in relation to the arm. So if you look at me just standing there, you can clearly tell that my upper arm is still much thicker than my shoulder. But as the upper arm grows, this has to grow too. So the shoulders will grow in relation to the upper arm. What's the most amount of pages you've read in a day? In my life, I've read 4 books in a day when I was a kid. So I would say 300, 400. Do you train real and natural delts before overhead pressing? Yeah, I don't mind that. For me, shoulder isolation can take place before or after pressing, and I've found very little difference. Sometimes with stuff like dips, I always want to do a shoulder isolation before because it makes the dips feel better. I've never felt that shoulders were the limiting factor on dips. It always felt more like triceps or like chest. But triceps, for example, I would never isolate before dips or presses because they tend to become the limiting factor for me. Are you dropping scripted videos? What does that even mean? Every video I drop is scripted. And I haven't been to reading for a while. Tips on getting into the habit. You have to pick books that you want to read. So many of us, we get books because, oh, it's a great book and people say it's going to be good for me. And then you just never fucking read it. Okay, so we're going to start with the Physique review right now. And I'm going to set up another screen to make sure that I don't just talk and commentate a black screen like I did last time. So no, that's not what I wanted. Okay, perfect. All right. So some water because I'm already parched for some reason. Ah, Michael, c'est chiant les jours de repos. Hein. Moi aussi, j'aime pas. How much protein are you having in a day? That's a great question. Much less than people recommend. I must be getting like give or take 100 grams, 120 grams, something like this. All right. So 20 people send their physiques, and we're going to review them together. And if I open my little folder, I can tell you who is first. Boom, 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 boom. Stream Physique. Okay, we have Blade M, who is the very first, and I'm going to go into the coffee and I'm going to read because sometimes people send me actually interesting information. So let's see. So we have Blade, who is a fairly young guy, sent me a few pictures. Okay. He didn't really add much information. He has this program. So the good thing with these streams is that if you add your program, I will be able to look at your pictures, tell you, okay, this is your weak part, this is your strong part, and I can tell you directly looking at the program where you can place things. So the only thing we know is that he wants good arms, specifically biceps. He wants a big chest, and he wants a huge bench press. And he thinks, and this is so interesting, he thinks that his back is his obvious strong point. I've noticed doing these physique reviews that oftentimes people do not really have a solid grasp objectively of what their strong and weak points are, and oftentimes they're very, very wrong. So this is a guy that started training 2 years ago, give or take, and he's 70 kilograms. So let's see. Up, Blade M. Okay. So we'll see if we get the black screen of death this time as well or not. It's always a possibility. You never know with this platform. Share screen. Okay, share. Aha, no black screen of death. Lovely. Okay. So this is a back position. We can see right off the bat that the guy was correct. Back strength is there. We see a good domination here. The arms are fairly small, which is perfectly normal as a young man who started training 2 years ago. Especially if you tend to be torso dominant, that is the part that is going to be the slowest to grow. So we already know, Blade, going forward, that if you want big biceps, it is going to have to be a priority. But I also see that your triceps are really, really lacking. So this is something that you're going to have to focus on. Looking at your back from this position, we see good traps, especially mid and lower traps, upper trap seems to be a little bit behind, but it's tough to really see. We also see that the posterior chain is not that big. We'll see later if the rest of the legs actually make up for that or not. Okay. Back double bi, which is a great pose to judge the development of the biceps. There is very little peak, and we see that the shoulders are much more developed. The shoulders are actually fairly nice. You have very balanced development. They're small, but if you keep growing rear, side, and front delt equally, you're going to be good. You're also very, very, very lean. So, and this is a theme that we'll see a lot with young men. You are the type of person who needs to not be afraid to bulk. I understand that you started a bit chubby, but you now are at a stage where you need this caloric surplus to be able to keep growing. You have a good Christmas tree. You have very good separation in your back. And I also notice, if we zoom in a bit, that your shoulder blades are uneven. So that might just be the pose. It might be scoliosis. It might be just an imbalance of the right trap and the left trap. Might be something that you want to look into. The younger you start looking into these imbalances, the easier it is to fix. The more you wait, the more they set themselves in stone. In reality, they cement themselves. Okay, then your core. So for someone who is so lean, I really, really want to see more ab development. You have a good vacuum, and I think that this is a skill that you need to keep working on because it goes well with your frame. Your lats look decent from this perspective. You have good serratus, but yeah, you really need to start isolating your actual core, your actual six-pack. I'll take your physique to the next level. And again, if you start young, you'll be even better off. Okay, that is a much more, in a sense, normal, honest lighting. So we see the real absence of abdominal development. The chest is fairly small. Your front is your weak point. And this is something that I said last time. I am a little bit, I don't quite know what created this, but I see a lot of lifters who have this imbalance where their back is hyper dominant. And again, I think that it might be due to do twice as much pulling as you do push, but this results in that because then you have a small chest, you have small delts, you have small arms. So this is something going forward you have to correct. Maybe do less back volume and more upper back up and more front of the body volume. Okay. All right. So you do look very young, which is why I'm not going to be that hard on you. I really want you to start isolating your neck as fast as possible because it's going to just tie your physique together. It's going to make you look better. This angle in itself is not flattering for you, so it's not really an indictment. Obliques, I think you would also benefit from training, but overall, it's front of the body because it's like if I flip from this picture to this picture, it feels like I'm looking at picture one, a complete novice, and picture two, someone who's like fairly advanced, because your back is really, really good. You have good potential. So do not become the type of person that leans into his strong point and instead try to correct your weak point. Your legs are also a weak point. You're young and you just got started, so it's normal, but you have a lot of areas of progression. You have still tremendous potential to grow pretty much everywhere. Your most muscular is decent. Again, I need to see core. The most muscular is really about that too. It's showing off that muscularity. Because in reality, what you're doing is you're creating like a frame with your arms, and what's in the middle of the frame should be the six-pack. If there is no six-pack, what are you even showing off? And the side chest is actually a pretty good pose for you because you have a good frame. Now you just have to fill up that frame. But if we look at what you used to look like, it's night and day difference. Like you look like a British kid that is like 12 years old and like eats bellies and beans and whatever the fuck. That's already a massive transformation from this, where I just want to like put a coat on you and make sure you're not cold, to this. Like you're starting to look more and more like a man, and you're just getting started. So that's tremendous. Yeah. And your triceps as well, fairly small. Okay. Yeah, you have, so for you, Blade, front of the body, presses, arm isolation, train your legs seriously, and you'll be just fine. Let's do the next one. Oh, and by the way, since you sent me your program, let's take a look to see where the imbalance comes from. So you do dips, triceps push downs, core crushers. Okay, you don't do any back. Sit hammer curls, Romanian deadlift. Wow, it's interesting because looking at Blade's program, he does do a majority of presses. So this is someone that is really, really gifted for back development to the point that he does only really one back day per week in opposition to what amounts to almost 3 press days, and yet we still see that imbalance. That is the reality of bodybuilding. It just means that you're going to have to like really, really kick ass when it comes to that front of the body work. Okay, next up is Braxton. and with Braxton, we start already getting into trouble because Braxton is someone who sent me his physique. And when I saw his physique, I was like, wow, that's someone that looks enhanced. And he told me, no, I'm not enhanced. And then he shared some interesting information with me. So let me see if I can find what he sent me. I can give you some context before I show you these very impressive pictures. So Braxton was all the way the fuck down, if I remember, of course. It's always the ones that are the hardest to find. Where are you, Braxton? How are you so low in the thing? I should have sent you a message earlier. Okay, I found Braxton. So Braxton told me that he's 5'10", 180 pounds. He's been training for 5 years. He also let us know that he doesn't focus on hypertrophy. He's a martial artist, and he could be much bigger if he wanted. All right? With that in mind, I'm going to show you the pictures that he sent me, and we're going to start to analyze them. Up. All right. So, okay. Gigantic bicep. You have shit insertions, and yet they are very, very, very impressive. You also have a very complete tricep where the sweep is beautiful. If I were to nitpick, I would say maybe your inner forearm is slightly behind, but it's simply because the rest of your arm is so big. You also have a huge shoulder, like your front delt is almost as big as your bicep. You have great lats. You have great core development. The obliques are a bit behind. Huge neck. And again, this is someone who's 19 and who doesn't focus on hypertrophy and focuses on martial arts. So I'm just, this is a stream where I'm a straight shooter. I'm not going to bullshit you. If I saw a 19-year-old looking like this and he told me all of that and it wasn't this stream, I would be like, yeah, there's a chance that you are lying to me and you're actually on something. But we could also just say, well, that's someone that has tremendous potential and great genetics. Let's look at more pictures. Okay, from the back, very nice back, very nice V-taper. You have Braxton, you have the what is the term? Shit, of course I forget. You have the dimensions of someone who is much shorter. So the fact that you're 5'10" with that build is really, really impressive because I would have surmised that you're like 5'6", 5'7". So from the back, we can see very developed shoulders, real delts, very big neck from the back, very good traps, and very good triceps. Okay, another picture of these arms. All right, from this angle, we see that the peak is not as absurd as it was from the front. And we can also start to see that there are areas that are underdeveloped. And that tends to not really be the case with people who are fake natties, where the development is pretty much everywhere. They just end up with massive delts and massive traps. If you look at the chest, it's underwhelming. So now we might just be dealing with someone who has very good genetic potential for shoulder size, and he gets all of the stimulus in his shoulders when he does presses, but the chest is being starved. So this is what gives that like gorilla look. You know, if you look at a gorilla, that's what I'm looking at right now when I look at Braxton. The brachoradialis is insane, like it's really developed. But looking at the other arm, we can see that the inner forearms is lagging slightly behind. And that would make sense with the size of the biceps, because that could also mean the same thing. The bicep gets all of the work. The tricep is also nothing to sneeze at. All right, another much better picture, with much clearer lighting. So that's an even better pose at what we saw previously. So now I have to get into critique mode. I can't just look at you and say, well, that's great. All right. Obviously, you don't need any advice for arm training. or shoulders training. If anything, I'm going to take advice from you. You have great lats. You have very good core development. You have a very tiny waist. We also have to keep in mind that we are looking at someone who has very good structure for bodybuilding, or he has wide shoulders, wide clavicles, and a narrow waist, which is going to make the upper body look bigger. If I were to point out an area that I think you could focus on a little bit more, it would be your chest. Now, did you include pictures of the back? No. So the first one is, we'll get back to that. I want to see if I have a picture of your back. So, okay. Something that Braxton did tell me is that he did not have as developed of a back because he didn't really start training it seriously. So it's not really fair for you to hide your quote-unquote weak point, but I can see from the front that your lats are developed and your traps are developed. So I would have been very, very curious, Braxton, to actually be able to see your back. I don't know if you're on the stream or not. Anyways, so looking at this, oh, actually, did I? No, okay, it's still sharing the screen. Beautiful. All right. Well, that's the arms again, nothing to say. Looking at the legs, he also told me, oh, I didn't retrain my legs like seriously, so they're all a bit behind. Are they though? It's like, to me, that's fairly developed. Maybe your hamstrings are. Maybe again, you're hiding your posterior chain in the things that are not as developed, but your legs are great. And this is again a side chest, and the side chest, yes, does show that your chest needs work. So I'm going to assume that you didn't show us your weak body parts. So going forward, if you want to look even more bananas, chest and just overall posterior chain work and upper back work. The front of the body is already up there. And since you got there at 19 with not focusing on hypertrophy, I think the sky's the limit for you. So if one day you actually want to compete, I think that you are going to do just well. And if you are taking steroids, I hope you're not, but if you are, it also would be a good idea to maybe refrain because you're very young and right now you're not suffering any side effects, but you might in the future. Okay. Oh, I almost clicked on something stupid. Okay. We have Nomadman who asks, why is it important to progress on lifts? For example, why must we do preacher curls to bring up our incline curls? Does the stimulus change if the lift is not plateaued? Your question is very confusing. Why is it important to progress on lifts? Because that's how you grow muscle. So that's answer number one. Why must we do preacher curl to bring up incline curls? Because eventually, if you do single progression, that stalls. Try doing incline curls as your one bicep movement and tell me what happens to you. You're going to get to the 35s, the 40s, the 45s for a set of 12, and then you are going to just be stuck because that's the only stimulus you get for the bicep, and that's not enough to break that plateau. So this is why you need a plurality of exercises. This is what I personally recommend. How many exercises? When you're a novice, 1 to 2. The more you progress, you can get more. I say personally, never more than 4 or 5 because then it becomes too much. But you can have as much soft variation as you want. I explained that in length in my video called Unlimited Hypertrophy. What was his weight? He was 180 pounds at 5 feet 10. So the weight could also be the proof that he is not on steroids because he's not like 240 pounds. This is not a 240-pound teenager, but incredible physique. And Braxton, if you're watching, the fact that we're doubting your natty status is great. It shows that you have accomplished so much at such a young age that we're like, what the fuck? NH, please, what do you want? NH, any lifts you have found beneficial for shoulder health or / bulletproofing? Anything reeled out is great for bodybuilding and tends to really help with the health of the shoulders. Paradoxically, dips really help. Are you good, Frenchman? How's your health? I don't know. I've been shitting myself for the past 2 days. I don't know what's going on. All right. Let us continue. Next up is Camden. Up. And Camden is someone who, from memory, was 270 pounds and who lost all of the weight. So that's something to keep in mind as we judge this physique. Okay, up, share. All right, so Camden went down from 270 pounds and he's currently bulking. First and foremost, we can admire this beautiful beast in the background, beautiful husky. And that's all the cardio you need because these guys like to escape, so you can just run after them. All right, so looking at your physique, well, you have a certain lack of muscles, which is not too surprising because you're focused on losing the weight. But for the people watching this, if you are overweight and you want to cut, keep in mind that if you lift weights as you cut, it'll make the cut easier and you'll look better once you've lost the weight. But this is also great because I know that a lot of people watching this look like this. It's not a curse, it's not an indictment, it's just a starting point. So looking at that frame, I think you have great shoulder potential. You have very straight clavicles, which tends to be very aesthetic, and you have good shoulders on them. They're very small right now, but if you focus on them, they're going to get bigger. Your biceps are also fairly developed. What I notice is lack of tricep development. So if you don't do tricep isolation, you should start. Core is also a big issue. You are lucky in that you don't seem to have much loose skin around your waist. So having your six pack come through is going to not be as hard as if you did. So something to keep in mind. All right, pose from the side. So we see that the bicep is much better than the tricep. I can literally like just draw a straight line under your arm and it would just stay straight. Maybe a shitty thing to say. I'm just saying it's not supposed to look like this. So please isolate your triceps going forward. Your real delt are also fairly behind the rest of the delt. So isolation for that portion would also be needed. Okay, then the back. So this pose is a bit complex to judge because you are scrunching your shoulders together. You're pulling your shoulder blades together, which makes the traps look bigger, but it also makes you look narrow. And so it's a bit of an awkward pose. We see still that the delts are fairly voluminous, even from the side, even from the back. It's just that they don't have the definition that you would expect. Looking at this, maybe I'll get a better picture of your traps later, but I would say focus on your lats. One, because it's going to make your love handles look smaller, and the more you lose the love handles, which you're at a point where I would really tell you not to keep cutting. I know that you're bulking right now. I don't want to be the guy who tells you stop bulking, but realistically, you are at a body fat where you would do just fine with a recomp because you do not need a caloric surplus to gain weight. This is something that people who used to be fat also need to hear. It's great that you lost the fat and you focused on losing the fat with a cut, but once you stabilize and you're still flabby, there is no need to start to introduce calories. I would prefer to keep you at maintenance for a year and a half, and then introduce calories when you've lost that extra fat around your waist. Because usually that's the curse of people who try to lose that fat, where they reintroduce calories and that area blows up quickly. Because what you lost the fastest, which is the fat around your waist, tends to come back the fastest. So this is a much more honest picture of your back, and it confirms my suspicions. You have good traps for your level. You have good front delts and side delts and good biceps, and you have pretty bad triceps, real delts, and lats. So these are the areas I want you to focus on with ab isolation. Okay, nothing much to add from this picture. Maybe the chest. Chest is always very tricky for me to judge because body fat skews it to a tremendous extent. So we'll see once you get a little bit leaner. Yeah, from the front, I think it confirms what I just said. Is that the chest, it might be a little bit behind, but you also have some fat in the area. So never a bad idea to focus on it since your shoulders are already above it. Okay, more doggo, and we see your legs. So you have fairly slim legs for someone who used to be overweight. It might be a good idea to focus on them. And it's interesting that your calves are actually ahead of the rest of your leg. Yeah, that pretty much confirms it. All right, so you're at the start of your journey, your muscle building journey after your weight loss journey, and now you know the areas that you need to focus on to really get to the next level in terms of aesthetics. But hats off to you because you already did the hardest part, which is to be healthy. Now we want you to be super healthy. Any questions in the chat? He lost 60 pounds. He did. And that's no small feat. I personally I was never fat, or I think there's a great difference between people who were fat for a long time out of habits and people who made themselves fat. I made myself fat because I wanted to bulk. So it was very easy to lose the weight. I would not focus on specific parts. He has to build baseline mass. See, this is an issue because it's an advice that is given a lot to novices where they're told, oh, you're just small, so grow everything. regardless of the amount of muscle mass on your frame, you have dormant, strong and weak points. And so as you start to grow, things are going to grow faster than others. To be able from the start to have someone tell you, hey, clearly this area is already starting to be dominant with little work, so you must focus on something else, is going to avoid so much of a headache going forward. Because that way, when you're 2, 3, 4 years in and you become an intermediate, it will not be this, that now this body part is so much behind and now I have to play catch up. No, because you've already played catch up before you even needed to play catch up. I personally wish that I had someone that could have looked at my physique when I started lifting, who could have told me, hey, you already have big biceps and you're 1 year in, look at your triceps. But no one did that. And so now I play catch up. Are physique reviews always on Sundays? No. Saturday, Sunday, highly depends. Doesn't it also depend on the preference of the person? Yes, but preferences, and this is something that I've noticed talking to people, tend to come in later. Many people, they don't really have a preference when they start. And I would like if they did, it would be great if people came in saying, I want to look like this, but the majority of people don't. And it's because you have to find yourself. You have to lift for a while to even figure out what the fuck you want. You might even find out after a year of training that you don't even really care about aesthetics and you want to do strongman or you want to do a sport. That's a possibility. And H, can I send you my physique term paper on coffee for review? If you want a really bad grade, sure. What are the criteria for choosing a rep range for a specific lift? First, what you like, and two, the specs of the lift. So, for example, if you do a compound movement, most compound movements I will prefer in smaller rep ranges, so that way you can be more intense. Then, with isolation, we're going to be skewed towards higher rep ranges. So, if you do real dart isolation and you do reverse pec deck and you do 3 to 5, like instinctively you understand there's an issue with that rep range. We'll prefer a 10 to 15. Likewise, if you do weighted dips and you do a 10 to 15, there's an issue here because the specs and the qualities that we're trying to get from these lifts is not aligned with the rep range. Then there are, of course, negotiations. Some people will never go above 10 reps because they say it's useless. I personally never go above 20 reps because I think you start to get into the realm of junk volume. Some people will never go below 10 reps because they say it's bad for bodybuilding. My range personally is from 3 to 15 reps. That's where all of my work takes place, 100%. I never go below 3 reps. I never go above 15 reps, save for a few forearm and neck exercises that I want to keep safe. That's it. But the rest is fun in between. And the bulk of that in between is between 6 and 12. That's my strike range for most exercises. Aren't you a robotics expert? What the fuck does that have to do with physics? Also, I'm not a robotics expert. I'm a machine learning expert. That has nothing to do with it. Someone who tells you I'm a machine learning engineer has never touched a robot in their life. They just code. What are your thoughts on the novel The Count of Monte Cristo? I like it, and there was a French adaptation very recently that is very good. You should go watch it if you like the novel. LONH, on your video about Arnold raises, you make it sound like they are a lift you can grind on instantly. Do you still believe this? No, actually, it's the opposite. If you cheat, you can actually get extra reps. And as you plug the laptop, I plug the laptop. Is the announcement soon? No, because of multiple problems in my life that are not that severe, but the announcement is going to be pushed back. So it won't even be this week because I want to release a few videos before. So the announcement will be January 1st instead. Can I send you myself per mail? You're going to send yourself per mail. I'm going to have to reception your dead body. No, thank you. You should drink water. Yes, thank you for that. Please drink water in the chat. What kind of videos? I want to make a video about standards, like bodybuilding standards, and the reason why your standards are too low, and maybe something else. I don't know. How many years of consistent lifting do you have right now? 15. All right. Who is next on my list of naughty boys? We have Chris C, who has a cat as his profile picture on Coffee, which means he's either a great person or a psychopath. There's no in between. Okay, let's see. So this was cut and this was final. All right, so it's going to be a big bit of a clusterfuck because Chris sent me his entire life via pictures and he gave me zero indication of what was when. So I sort of had to piece the things together. I know you're on the chat. Why did you do this to me? Are you having fun with me right now? All right. Share screen, window, boom. 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 Okay. All right. Let's review your physique, Mr. Chris C. So this is, I suppose, you when you are doing a cut. And it's going to be interesting because when I was looking at your cut pictures, I was seeing a lot of weak points that you fixed afterwards. So now looking at this, great shoulders, spaghetti arms. So that would have been what I would have told you to focus on. You have a good chest, you have good serratus development. Your core back then wasn't that developed. Right. That is you on the bulk. Again, I surmise because you didn't give me any dates. And on this, and at the end, there's also the final pictures of you that I know are the most recent. So you'll still get an up-to-date physique review, but we'll go through the ages and the stages. So you had a lot of fat around your waist, which you managed to lose. So congratulations. That is a very trap dominant back where you have close to no lats. And this is also something that I would have told you to fix. And we also see that the arms are behind. All right, that's again you on your cut. So there is a massive difference between these two pictures. One, you actually are bigger and you look leaner. You also have horrible back knee. If I'm mean, don't hesitate to call me an asshole. It comes naturally to me. The waistline is much trimmer. We see that you have the same underwear. No, actually, I'm a liar. Not the same underwear. It's very important that you wear the same underwear for a frame of reference. But you have a very good back, and you actually fixed your trap dominance. You actually have much better lats. So if these pictures are in reverse, I don't know how the fuck you managed to do that shit. You also have developed your triceps. That's you at the beginning because the pictures are not in order. So yeah, like even in the bulk talker stage, you look like a tadpole back then, and maybe that's why there's the sea behind you. You came directly from the sea, but tremendous progress that you made. Because again, if I take this picture and I put it on Natty or Not on fucking Reddit, everyone would be like, "Oh, he'll always be small. You will need 15 grams of train a week to even gain a pound of muscle." And yet, look at you now. You really did it. You really did it. Right? You made it, bro. So this is you, I suppose, again on the bulk, lots of fat around your waist, and the chest didn't look that great, but that's because you carried a lot of fat. All right. When you cut down, we see that you actually have a pretty good structure under all of that, and you have good chest insertions. You seem to have good chest potential. The legs are fairly small compared to the rest of the upper body, so you might be a little bit like behind in that area. All right, that's you now. I suppose that this is the most recent picture that you shared with me. So great delts that you always had, but I also see that the arms also caught up, and more importantly, the lats caught up because you did not used to have that in the previous pictures. So good job. You actually managed to assess your own weak points and to correct them. Now, what about the ones that you did not correct? Your core. Your core is still very, very weak. So I want you to isolate your abs. Two, you still, of course, need to pay more attention to your arms and especially your forearms. I don't think these forearms I've ever seen isolation. Am I correct? Or am I just like spitting bullshit here? Okay, this is you in less flattering lighting, but still a great physique. And you know, someone was talking about like baseline, baseline muscle mass or whatever the fuck. To me, that's not even what we shoot for. What we shoot for is a clean, solid physique that we can pack mass on. This is exactly what you have right now. This is the stereotypical body of someone who, going forward, will be on a lean bulk and make even better progress. Okay, you have good serratus development, so I wouldn't tell you to isolate that. Please train your core. Please train your core. Again, very good shoulder. You have very capped shoulders and a good chest. So that's great because usually you have one and not the other. And that was you on the bulk, so we don't really need to spend more time on that. But it shows the massive importance at some point of gaining weight, building muscle, and then losing that weight if you want to see what you look like underneath. All right, you did send me a million pictures. And I don't really have much to add outside of that. Yeah, and your quad also caught up a bit. So that's good. Okay. I know that you're in the chat, so actually I'm going to take some questions if you have, Mr. Chris. Do you have questions, Mr. Chris? I don't see any questions from you in the chat, so I'm going to keep going. All right. Can we just bulk into infinity? Technically, you can, if you do it properly. If you don't do it properly, no, because you'll get fat, you'll have to lose the fat, and then you'll get fat again, and it's just, you're spinning your wheel like an hamster. NH, I'm Blade M. Do you think I can maintain for a bit? It would be a mistake. You need to bulk. I understand you used to be a chubby kid. You don't want to be chubby again, but you need to introduce calories into your diet if you want to gain at this point. How much surplus did you bulk on? Did I bulk on or do I bulk on? A minimum amount. The bare minimum amount to gain weight. All right. Next, we have Cyprus. And Cyprus sent me very few pictures, but enough for me to actually help and produce a physique review. So let's do it. Boom. You have noticed no black screen today. Maybe this is a blessed stream. And of course, the second I say that, there is going to be a fucking black screen. Nope. I don't. Okay. I thought I saw the black screen on my tablet. I was like, Jesus Christ, did I predict it? No. All right, Mr. Cyprus. Let us start with the start, if we can. All right. So you sent me a few pictures. This one is from the side. So here, decent tricep development, decent shoulders, decent traps. The chest seems to be a bit behind, and the core development as well. And if we look at the other arm, it's actually fairly weak in terms of biceps, where I don't even really see your bicep. So maybe this is a bad pose. We're going to see going forward. But I noticed that you have very long arms, and that is going to be an issue to develop biceps and forearms. So these should be priorities. Okay, legs. You have good legs. They seem fairly thick. I'm surprised with how little your glutes are. It's fairly rare to find that. It's much more common in women to have this imbalance between size of the leg and size of the glutes. So posterior chain work might actually be in order if you want to actually have a developed gluteus maximus. Okay, better picture from the front. So I was correct in saying that your bicep is one, very long, and two, very flat. And the two are sort of caused by one another. This is a good example of the beginning of a spider physique, in my opinion. You have good shoulders, you have decent triceps, but you really need to do more supination, more pronation to make sure that the entirety of the front of the arm and the forearm grow. You have good serratus development, you have decent lats. The core is not where I would want it to be, and the chest neither. So these are things that you should really start to focus on more. But as I said, you have good traps. Okay. And the quads are actually very, very big. You might actually have a shot to get quads that look from the front thicker and bigger than your waist. And that can be a good look. You have long legs. So you have a very interesting body type. You have very interesting proportions, very long limbs, and a short torso. I'm certain that there is a specific strength sport that you would be very, very good at. Also, I don't know if you censor the entirety of the top of the things. Like, where do you train? Okay, yeah, good lats. Did you send me your back? Yes, you did send me your back. Okay, cool. Yeah, you have good traps, you have good lats. So you are an example of someone who is back dominant, and it's in reverse for the lower body. So your lower body is front dominant. So going forward, lots of posterior chain work, because your erectors are not where they should be compared to the rest of your back, especially your glutes and your hamstrings are not. A lot of focus on forearms, a lot of focus on biceps, on chest, and on your core. Short and easy little review. Qu'est-ce que j'ai raté? Tu as raté quelques reviews, mais pas tant. Hello, it's Smiley Face on Coffee. Wondering if you could do my review earlier. Gotta sleep soon. Yes, I will do it right now. See, I'm benevolent as much as it is possible to be. All right, Smiley Face. Well, you are going to go last, pretty much. So it's good that you said something. Okay, Smiley Face. Let's get you. And I remember that you had a very good physique, so it's going to be interesting. You had someone who had tremendous potential. Boom, boom. Mr. Smiley Face, share. Okay, So this pose, I will never understand why people send me this pose. Oh, is this a black screen? Oh, it's a black screen. Let's go. The first black screen of the stream. I caught it. Not today, black screen of death. Not today. Not today. You got caught. We did it, guys. There must be one per stream. It's a tradition at this point. Le black screen. Okay. Second attempt. And it's still a black screen. Wow, Smiley Face. YouTube really doesn't want me to review your physique. It's almost scary. Are you on the list somewhere? What is going on? Okay, that's attempt number 2. Let's do attempt number 3. Share screen, window, boom, boom, smiley, boom, share. And we did it. Third time's the charm. Okay, smiley. So you sent me that that pose. I have no idea why people like that pose, but it does show off your arms. So very good bicep development. You have good shoulders. You have good forearms. Thank God. Your triceps are swept, but in terms of arm development, this is where you should put all of your efforts because this is the part that is the most behind. And good traps. All right. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because this is not really a pose that allows me to really see your weak points. All right. Now it's much more interesting. Now I can see your structure. You're built like a pit bull. Like it's very interesting the way your shoulders are built in comparison to your waist. You have a tiny ass waist, and this is very good for bodybuilding because if you get these arms bigger, I'm not even talking about the forearms because look at that, look at those forearms, like, they're already jacked. But if you can get those biceps, you have a short insertion, unfortunately, and these triceps, Lord, look at the insertion of the tricep. Look where they insert. They almost insert into the armpit. Once you get these arms bigger, it's game over because that double back bicep pose looks amazing already. You have a great Christmas tree. You have a big ass. I must say. You see the long hair. This is a guy, guys. Okay, don't do anything stupid on the stream. You have very good glute development. So I don't see much weaknesses here. You have good lats. They seem to insert fairly high, but it makes. I personally like it. I really like the look. So arms, based on this arms. Okay, now from the front. All right. Your front is very disappointing. Your arms are like shredded. You have shredded arms. You have good biceps. You have very good forearms. Your forearms are even bigger than your biceps. And that might be an issue going forward, I guess, because of your short insertions. So you'll really have to put a lot of effort on supinated motions with the pinky really twisted outward to really get as much bicep as you can. You have very good pronators, rare to see in a bodybuilder, good pronator. Your triceps need to grow. But what I really want you to focus on is that chest, man. Because we see that you have good shoulders, but that chest is behind and that core as well. It's not normal to see you that shredded with we see the full insertion of your biceps and for you to not even have the hint of a six pack. So isolation, please. Holy fuck, these sweatpants I don't think are PG-13. Let's not scroll down. All right. Thank you for more. Look at how tiny your waist is, dude. You have insane potential for aesthetics. Very good forearms again. The chest looks better here, and we see that you don't have bad insertions for your chest. You might have a bit of a hole in between, but that's nothing. So more upper chest isolation as well, but chest and abs needs to be on your menu. And here we see that indeed your tricep is fairly dominant in your arms. Maybe more real dots. The way your shoulders are built is interesting as well. I don't know if it's just the structure of them. And then we have one last picture that really, to me, showcases your potential, where you have very good delts, you have good width, tiny waist. So, yeah, you are someone who needs to slow bulk 100%. You need to gain weight. You need to focus on chest and abs and biceps. That's your calling going forward, Mr. Smiley. And now you can go to bed. Mm. Okay, Timothy, Mr. Khan, with your beautiful mustache, you want to go next? Okay, you'll go next. NH, how do you build back thickness? Posture chain exercises that are going to build your erectors and rhomboids, and then movements that you go ooga booga on. So heavy rows, heavy dumbbell rows, barbell rows if you enjoy them and you can do them properly, like heavy power shrugs, shit like this. Bro is built like Yutaro from the Demon Slayer arc. You are correct. I was trying to figure out like what physique I was reminded of when I was looking at this long torso. That's exactly that. He's like Yutaro. Tips for pull-up plateau. Introduce a variation with a different grip. Tips for arm training for long arm people. Your range of motion will not be my range of motion. I have fairly tiny humeruses, so the distance between the elbow and the shoulder is short. So when I do a movement and I do a bicep movement like this, the distance I have to travel is not that big for the bicep to be stretched. If this was twice as long, it would be a much longer distance. And suddenly, the lever is more disadvantageous. And so you have to either limit it or find ways to use less weights to get the same amount of results. You are going to be advantage on movements where you pull, but on movements where you bring the arm to you is going to be harder. Ton avis sur Delavier? Delavier is one of the best source of information for bodybuilding worldwide, and that's it. I'll make a video about it eventually. NH need help. I have an ape index of 0, a very long neck, a small pelvis, but very wide hips, small torso, and very long legs. I don't know what to do with my body. Advice. Send me a message on Coffee. Send me a message on Coffee and we'll work together. All right, Michael Gundel too. I agree. Gundel is also a national treasure, even though he is sometimes an asshole, but this is why we like him. Okay, then we have Mr. Tamure, who says that he has to go eat. And I don't want to assume, Mr., but I suppose you're Persian. So I know that if you're late for dinner, you're going to get the babushka. So let's get you up. Pakistan? My bad. Okay, let's get you. Close enough. Well, let's not say that. I don't know if I don't want to get in trouble on your behalf. All right, share screen window. Boom. Oh, your name is Persian. See, someone is already saying Pakistan is not Persian. We're already getting in trouble. All right, let's look at you. All right, Tamure. So, from the side, first thing that shocks me, these traps, very good traps. Some would even say hyper-developed traps. All right, you have good triceps. The biceps are a bit lacking, but we'll see that this is maybe not the best pose. You have good forearms. You did tell me, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm rarely mistaken, that you have been training for 10 years on and off, so you've never really focused on training super, super hard, and that you do martial arts. That's, I think, and you're 23, and you do martial arts, and you think you do boxing, right, which might explain the traps. And you don't train legs much. Okay, and your stats are 5'7" in the morning at 170 pounds. All right, I think these are interesting information to share to the chat. Okay. All right, side chest. Yeah, good delts, decent biceps, good forearms. Your forearms seem to be a little bit above and ahead. I think that the upper arm in particular is what you need to focus on if you want to really focus on hypertrophy. Chest, it looks lacking from here. Again, your traps are really, really dominant, and your neck. It's an interesting archetype, traps and neck. All right, legs, and you say you don't really train your legs. Why? There's no point in training your legs. They're already big. And you have a big posterior chain too, so no points. Okay. Do not put any sharps into the bins. We'll see about that. All right. So chest, definitely. Forearms are insane. They are very thick from the front. You have very wide forearms. Traps and neck are insane. Shoulders are okay. So yeah, biceps, triceps, chest, and core. You do not have any core muscularity, and that's not okay. You would look so much better with some abs. I like the fact that you took the time to do that. Like you took the time to make this. So you had to go and take one of my thumbnails and cut it and then fucking put my face on your face. I just want to say that this mustache is a tremendous downgrade from what you have. Okay, double biceps. I might have been a bit hard on your biceps. It might just be that you have long insertions. So biceps not that bad. Forearms way above. Well, zooming in on this, like giving me PTSD. Look at how fat I used to be. Like, guys, in that picture, I'm 10 pounds lighter than I am now. Do you understand how important body composition is for bodybuilding? I'm lighter here than I am now, and I look much more lean now. Look at that fat fuck. Jesus. I'm pink like a pig too. I'm like about ready for slaughter. All right. Sorry, getting a little bit sidetracked. Okay, so good shoulders and no core and chest. So this is something to keep in mind. Very aesthetic selfie. Like you, that's interesting. All right. Yeah, your chest is definitely behind. So you are in a sense an archetype of someone who is arm dominant, but you have very good traps and a beautiful mustache, I must say. Okay, you have good calves, expected for a boxer. And here we see these traps. So yes, very good traps. Decent directors, actually, very decent lats. Frankly, your back is really not that bad at all for someone who hasn't been training like for pure hypertrophy for 10 years. And your shoulder girdle in particular, like really catches my eye. I would really like it if you like focused more on real delt and teres major and minor, because all of this area here to me just screams potential for aesthetics. Like if it was bigger and you're slightly leaner, I think this entire back area would look amazing. Yep. And you're fairly back lean as well. So that's a tremendous tool and a boon. Yeah. Yeah, so nothing to say about your back, really. And here we see again your arms with your giant forearms, and that I'm not jealous of your mustache at all, by the way. Why is there a plate on the wall? If you want to eat, like, but on the wall. Okay, so Mr. Tamure, going forward, ab isolation, 2 to 3 times a week, train your chest more, and focus on biceps. And the rest is already Gucci, in my opinion. How do you program full body while prioritizing arms? Well, you put a lot of arm isolation in your full body split. Full body is extremely flexible. Advice for nucleus overload on abs. You can do 2 sets every time you train. Appreciate it. Of course, my friend. Enjoy your dinner. Best movements for obliques. Side twists on an hyperextension bench, suitcase deadlifts. I posted my program too. Okay, let me give a look. Okay. Monday squats, bench weighted pull-ups, weighted dips, forearm preacher superset. So you do full body then. And then Thursday day 2. And you train 2 times a week. So that's good. Incline. So let's look at your chest volume. So you do bench. Okay, you're typically someone who clearly doesn't get much chest from bench. So maybe try doing something else like dips or like weighted push-ups. For a boxer, I would say weighted push-ups instead. You already do weighted dips. So do weighted push-ups and weighted dips instead of bench and weighted dips. And then on the Thursday, I don't see okay, you do incline, dumbbell incline, but you might just get them in your shoulders. So make sure that you put some chest isolation on your Thursday as well. And then do you do abs? You do ab rollouts or weighted decline for abs. Yeah, you might have to do more frequency for your abs. So for when you train boxing, for example, that could be an idea. Are straight bar pull-ups bad? No, they're great. Wouldn't training obliques damage V-taper? No. because the oblique runs to the side of the core. When people point out at obliques that thicken the waist, they're pointing out at love handles, which are not muscles. I've seen one example of a guy whose obliques made his waist look bigger, and it's that Korean guy that was all the rage 10 years ago, and that's because he was on roids. Could we peep the massive forearms, please? Thanks, boss. My massive forearms? Oh, that's not a good angle. Arm wrestlers do this like this. This. Is this massive? I don't know. I think it's pretty good. There's a good chunk of meat right there. What I like the most is this here. Is this curve. Once you build that curve, you're good. Even if that works, your lats will outgrow your obliques. Yeah. All right. When you say focus on the muscle, you mean more volume? I mean more volume, more frequency. Yeah. Tu benches combien? Ta meuf doit vraiment être contente. On est mariés, hein. Do you train your forearms? Yes. I put a lot of priority on them because if you look at my arm, just like if I extend it like this, behind me like this, look at the humerus to forearm ratio. I have very long forearms. And so if I want them to actually look massive, I have to get them very, very, very big. All right. Let's get someone else. So we skipped a bit, like we went to Smiley and Tamure because I wanted them to be able to be covered. The next one that was supposed to be in line is Davis. And we're going to begin with this. So Davis is also someone who had a very good physique. So it's going to be interesting to review. But first, let's see what he had to tell me. So Mr. Davis. He's here. All right, Davis tells me, I'm currently 19, 180 pounds, 3 years of lifting. He does a push-pull leg 2 times a week. And we'll look at his program afterwards. And he started at around 130 pounds. So in 3 years, he gained essentially 50 pounds, right? Let's see if these are 50 pounds of fat or something else. He also says, I do not train abs at all. Let's see if we end up with a fatty with a shitty six-pack. Boom, share screen, window, Davis. Okay. All right. All right, so first shot, we have triceps. Is that the thing that they put in bathrooms to change your kid? Very practical, very practical. All right. So from this angle, arms fairly small, delt dominant. The chest looks pretty good as well, and you have good obliques. All right, another angle. Confirmation that the shoulders and chest are actually fairly good. You seem to have a long neck. We'll see if we can actually confirm that later. And from this angle, if I compare to the previous angle, the biceps and forearms look to be a little bit above the triceps. And the forearms actually are decently good. They're actually very thick. It's interesting because if you zoom in, it looked almost as if that part underneath was part of the forearm. It's not. It's his waist, but it makes it look thicker. So congratulations, you managed to bend balls with me. The legs, however, seem to be slightly behind. Now, here's the thing. I don't think this is a bad look for you, Davis. It looks like a very classic silver era look, where you have a tight managed waist, you have fairly small posterior chain, but it actually is pretty aesthetic in my opinion. All right, from the front. Again, this is someone who is 19, who is 180 pounds. That to me is excellent bodybuilding genetics. We have very round shoulders. We have long attachments for the traps. We have very good arms. We have the sweep of the tricep. The biceps are slightly underwhelming in that pose. We have very good lats. However, with how lean you are, I do not understand this. You really need to isolate your abs more. It's super important, but the chest is amazing. Your insertions are beautiful. All right. So a more relaxed pose, a more honest pose, and honest or not, we still see long traps, good shoulders, good lats, good chest. So anything below your chin to like slightly below your sternum, I have nothing to say on. It's the things that are underneath that I have remarks. So your arms and your core. But the legs, from the front, it confirms what I was thinking, that they're developed and they're at the level where the silver era guys would have stopped, and you really don't want or need to get them bigger. And you might actually have achieved the golden ratio of Steve Reeves of having neck, arms, and calves all be the same size, where your calves actually look very developed, they look big. Okay, another picture. And we see again the tiny waist, the good shoulders. So yeah, the limbs is where it's at for you, I think. And this was Davis 3 years ago. So this is 3 years of work. This is 130 pounds. This is 180 pounds. So night and day, like a completely different person. Is this a lot of mass to put on in 3 years? Yes. Are we dealing with someone who looks to be gifted for bodybuilding? Also yes. And I personally don't see any signs that the guy is not natural. Now, in terms of potential, this is someone that could go into the 190s, 195, no problem. Yep. And the back. I think that this is probably the most impressive picture you sent me, Davis. You have very good back. You have very good erectors as well. Like, I don't know how you manage to get erectors that big with a posterior chain that is that behind, but whatever you're doing, keep doing that because it's working. Lats, perfect. I have nothing. You have good traps. I have nothing to say for your back. Yeah. So the one advice I would give you is ab isolation. Focus more on biceps and triceps, and then whatever you're doing around it, keep doing. And of course, you are also at a stage where you would benefit from a bulk. So a lean bulk. Yeah, the double bicep does show that the tricep could get bigger. But that is a very, very good physique. And this is a physique of someone that I think if they wanted to compete, they would do very well. Because this is a type of structures that tend to do very, very, very well in bodybuilding. Yeah, one lean bulk and it's over. But see, this is the interesting thing as well, where you'll see physiques like this, and I see someone who looks amazing. And oftentimes I will review physiques of guys who look better than me, who look more aesthetic. But I always see beyond that. I always see the future potential. I'm not interested in what you have now. What you have now is great and can be celebrated, but there's always more. And this is a physique of someone who can get more, because outside of the strong points we saw together on this physique, which is shoulders, beautiful back, beautiful chest, even these could get bigger. And I train my biceps and triceps 12 sets a week and they don't grow. What do I do? Are you progressing on the movements that you do? If you're not, then you have to find something else. Yes, you are. Well, then you're fine. How much do you sleep? I try to sleep 8-9 hours. Try. And did your opinion on crossing arms on front squat change? No. I'm not progressing. Okay, if you're not progressing, then there is an issue. That's why you're not growing. It's because you're just repeating the same stimulus for the muscle. Why would it grow? So you have to find a way to break that plateau. And it could be changing exercises. Maybe the exercises that you're doing right now are not aligned with what you need for hypertrophy. It could be maybe revisiting the amount of volume that you get. You might be doing too much. How much can you risk curl? That's a great question. With two hands, like on a cable with two hands. So if I do this on a cable, I think it's like something like 80 pounds. I don't know. I know that one hand is like 50 pounds, something like this. Yeah. Do you do Starmaster on your tippy toes with calves extended like a ballerina, or normally just not putting your entire feet on the stairs? Is it possible to be on your tippy toes and not have your calves extended? I personally don't know how to do that. When I'm on my tippy toes, yeah, the calves are going to, of course, be extended. How much can you neck curl? I do neck curls with 37 pounds, which is not a lot, but I do it in a way that makes it hard. Because if you just stack plates on your forehead like this and you do this yeah, I can do 90 pounds, but am I really using my neck or am I using my arms to like grab onto the plates? Not the same thing. Now I do it with an harness, and the harness is here, and the weight is standing behind me, and I'm on a preacher curl, and I go like this, and I really do a full range of motion. It's so much harder. Do you think everyone can reach a 4-plate bench 90? No. Anyone who tells you that is maybe trying to bump up your standards, but is also in a sense lying to you, because I think that everyone can get a 4-plate dip. That I truly believe. But 4-plate bench is not the same, because the bench at some level is also how much are you built for this exercise. Because if we are to accept that to get a 4-plate bench, you have to be able to train it for a long time, what if you're just not built for it and then you get shoulder issues? I know that for me, I got to a 335 pound bench and I could see myself get a 350 bench, but a 4-plate bench, unless I get obese, will always be out of the possibility for me. Whereas 5, 6, 7-plate dip, yeah, I can see myself do that, because the dip is a movement I can actually train and not get hurt. I don't think this guy likes Berserk. I hate Berserk. Hate it. That's why I made several long hour-long videos about Berserk. It's to tell you guys how much I hate it. Not even if you strength train. That means nothing. Not even if you strength train. It's even if you prioritize and you specialize only the bench and you sacrifice everything else. If you're not built for it and you cannot train it regularly and you get hurt, you will never get a 4-plate bench. Can you dip 200 kilograms? No. What do you think about Bayesian curls? I think they're really good. I think they're actually really good. I had a negative a priori about the exercise, because every time I saw someone do Bayesian curls, I saw them do it with no intensity and not going close to failure. Then I realized, hey, this is a lift that actually you can really grind on, because the resistance curve is great. And on top of that, you can do rest pose. So what I do with Bayesian curls is that I do 8 to 12 with a loop that is deep in the hand to really supinate the arm. I don't do it with like a handle, because the handle you'll tend to pronate through it. So I have the loop that cuts through my hand right here, and I will pick a weight that I can only do for 6 or 7 reps. So it's going to be very difficult. Then I fail, extend my arm, I stop for 15 seconds, I pick it up again, and I get more reps. And if I clean the rep range of 12, I go up. So I'm using a lot of weight for that exercise. It's very safe. It's also very intense. It's the only curl I feel in my biceps. That's true for many people, because you might be someone who's like forearm heavy and pronation heavy. And H, when you used to bench press, you never did them with a flat back, if I recall. Why? Because it destroyed my shoulders. That's also the reason why eventually I had to reconsider, because I saw the great videos by Bold Arm Man who spoke about the fact that you should be able to bench press with a flat back for more range of motion. And I was like, yeah, I recognize that there is value in this, but I can't do it. So maybe the lift is just not for me. And so I stopped. Bye-bye, French lifter. Do you have any advice for a woman that has been training for almost 2 years consistently? Well, that's very vague. Keep training. Become a beautiful goddess. Do you believe with all the good physiques you have reviewed that they can still go even further? Yes. I've yet to see a single physique where I was like, I have nothing to tell you. Even the people who look better than me, who are stage ready, they always have at least 2 areas to improve on. At least. That's a bare minimum. What can I replace RDLs and deadlifts by? Hyperextensions, GHR raises, and what is the last? Good mornings. What should someone who has a small frame train? If what you mean by small frame is what I have, which is very narrow clavicles, you need to train your limbs, so your arms in priority, and you need to get as much shoulders as possible in, because that's going to give the illusion of size. Why don't you compete? That's a great question. Back in the days, I would have told you I don't compete because I don't trust the federations with the drug testing. Nowadays, there are actually good natural federations that do drug testing properly. The reason why I don't compete is because I have no intention of losing weight. None. I started bodybuilding in the wise words of Rich Piana to be too big to fit through doors. And I still want that. So I'm not letting go of that size just to be shredded. Also because honestly, I don't have the frame and the structure to be shredded. I look worse shredded. But there's also the fact that I don't have the motivation for it. And I think that if I ever compete, it's because I will want to see what my body looks like without all of the extra fat. And so far, I don't really care. All right, some water. Do you think pro bodybuilders don't know how to train like the Olympians? Okay, I have an anecdote for you guys that is interesting. So I now train in a gym that has a lot of IFBB pros, a lot of them, like guys that you guys know who have their pro card. And it's very interesting to see them train because while it would be unfair to claim that every single PD user trains like a bitch, I have noticed that the difference in physiques between the ones that do and the ones that don't is minimal. So, for example, there's a guy that goes to my gym all the time. I see him all the time. He's very nice. He's on PEDs. He has his pro card. He is massive. He has the delts the size of my head, the traps up to his ears, everything that you expect from a PED user, okay, who competes. And he lifts like a maniac. Like he lifts very heavy weight, overhead presses 300 pounds. He does squats with 6 plates. Like he's a beast. That guy looks amazing. Then there's the other guy. The other guy is also an FBB pro. He comes to my gym, and I have never seen the guy lift more than 30 pounds. He does lateral raises with 10 pounds, pec deck with 10 pounds. He does 50 reps for gazillion sets, supersets out of the wazoo, and he looks just as good, if not better, than the other guy, which for natural lifters is not possible. Like if you take two guys, one who trains heavy with progressive overload and one who doesn't, after 3 years, there's going to be a massive difference in physique, but it's not something that I see here. So it's very difficult for me to then sit there and tell you guys, oh yeah, like IFBB pros must know what they're doing. They're pros. I don't know. I don't think so. I think that some of them have insane responses to the drugs and they coast through that. And it's not to say that some PD users give good advice. It's just that I would be very skeptical of the majority of them. Yeah. All right. Next up, who do we have? Can you name the two bodybuilders? No, because I would get kicked out of my gym, rightfully so. People who come and train at a gym expect privacy. This is also the reason why I will never record in the gym where I train, because I don't think it's nice to introduce a camera in an environment where people feel safe. Actually, my gym has a no camera rule, which I enjoy. All right, then we have Gutas, Mr. Gutas. Are you still in the chat, Mr. Gutas? I know you were at the start of the stream. All right, so we're going to begin with the pictures that you sent of you before. And then we are going to look at your transformation. Yeah, you're here. Perfect. So if you have questions, I'll be able to answer them afterwards. All right, Mr. Share. Begin. So that was you before. And I think you even sent me your stats. If I go and I check you out in the coffee. Good. Says, where are you? You can't possibly be that low. Ah, you're here. All right. So you're 62 kilos here. And this was at a time where your friends and family members told you were getting too big. And your friends said, you made it, dude. You got a good physique. You cannot change anymore. All right. This is what people used to say when they saw that. I personally see that. I see someone who has a lot of fat around their waist, a very large waist, someone who some would even say, hey, like, you will never get a good physique because of that waist. All right. Likewise, from that pose, very small arms, large waist. I know you will not take this the wrong way. You are built like the aliens from Men in Black. You know, the ones with the bad posture? Even from the back, like, all I can see is your waist. Okay. Boom. Honestly, I would have never in a million years been able to think that this was your potential based on this. And I don't think, like, don't bullshit yourself in the chat. You would not have been able to do that either. From this to this. Like you added so much mass where it matters. It's insane. You have a very good chest, insane traps, good neck, and like 4 or more on this chat. I'm French. You look good, dude. Like you're a very handsome guy. You used to not be that. Like lifting really made you glow up to a large extent. Like with the beard and like even just your facial feature, you look like a different person. You have very good delts, very good real delts. We can see them popping even with the relatively high body fat. I can see that the triceps are a bit behind, so that's going to be something like to stop like glazing you so much. Your tricep needs some work, but you have a very good like side chest. That's a beautiful side chest and very good legs. Okay, look at the back. I think that this is the most shocking part. You really did a number on your waist, dude. Like you managed to completely invert your proportions where you used to be bottom heavy and now you're top heavy. And you did this via building your traps. Now, of course, when I see an arm extended like this, I want to see a horseshoe. I want to see a tricep there. So triceps need to be high on your list of priority for isolation. Okay, the same pose. All right. Traps and lats, I don't have much to say because I think your back development is fairly complete. Okay, more back. You do seem to have some definition down there too. All right, the front. The front is where I'm mostly interested because this is where I'm going to give you the most critiques. So the chest, again, nothing to say there. You have good delts. From this angle, it's hard to judge. I know that you sent me a double bicep, so we're going to check that later. The bicep looks thick. The forearm looks okay. All right. Maybe the lats from the front could use some work. So if you can do some like weighted chin-ups, some dumbbell pullovers, some supinated unilateral lat pull down, that could potentially be very, very helpful. But nothing to say about the traps. You have very good traps. All right. More of an honest picture here. I like that. You know, sometimes I receive pictures from guys and I can tell that they really curated all of their pictures to make them look as good as possible. And that's fine. But if you want the best review possible from me, you have to send me pictures where you don't look as good. So here, I think that ab isolation should also be on your list of priority. The bicep, we'll see when they're flexed, not so much. Oh, is that the last picture? You did not send me a flexing bicep. Oh, that's too bad. It's going to be slightly harder for me to judge that then. But for you, Gutas, this is what I have to say. Chest, traps, shoulders, neck, back, nothing to say here. I think your focus should be triceps, biceps, forearms, core, and front and lats from the front. That should be your focus. Whatever you are doing to train the rest, you can train it just the way you are. All right. Up. Up. Do you have any questions? Mr. Gutas. No leg picks. We saw from the side chest that he has big legs. So weighted pull-ups, I would recommend weighted chin-ups in your case, with a grip that should be slightly narrower than shoulders. And yes, weighted pull-ups, not body weight. With weighted chin-ups, you want to make sure you don't fully extend the arm at the bottom. We want to protect the bicep. I know that some people do it. I think it's not worth the risk. Yes. So if you do body weight pull-ups 1 time a week, switch it to chin-ups, weighted chin-ups 1 time a week, and don't do it twice a week. It's going to be too much. The other time, you do either a supinated lat pull down, so you can be here and you open here in front of you for the front of the lat, or you do dumbbell pullovers. And H, how do I get back into working out after a long break? You ease yourself into it. You start with 2 sessions a week, 45 minutes of your favorite exercises, minimal volume, 2 sets. What do you think of starting every workout with calves? It looks like the magical solution for calves until you actually do it and you realize that, holy fuck, it's boring. And there was a reason why you used to skip calves. NH, what other methods of progression and adding the weight, bro, and switching exercises you could recommend? Your number one should be evolving rep range. That is the meat and potatoes of progression past the novice stage. The second one is going to be tempo. So not tempo as a metric to use for progressive overload, but tempo as a way to standardize your progressive overload. Why chin up? Because my bro science brain tells me that chin up trains more of the front of the lat. Because the elbow is inside as opposed to outside. I've always felt that this grip here trains the lats, of course, but also trains a lot of traps. Whereas when I do chin-ups, I don't feel any traps. Do you do behind the neck walk NH? No, I don't. I've personally found with my belts that every press that I do where I want to recruit the delts, I have to do in the scapular plane. So even being here is no good. I have to be here. I have to have my elbows almost in front of my body and I have to press in front of me. If I don't, my shoulders start to hurt and I don't feel my delts. Do you time rest breaks to standardize progression? No, because I'm very neurotic already. So I don't want to be the guy who stares at a clock. But I have enough of an habitus of training now that I know more or less what 3 minutes is. Sometimes I just also listen to one song or like 3 minutes of a podcast and then I do it. Our straight arm pull downs also good for front lats. What do you call straight arm pull downs? You mean the ones like the pullovers with the bar in front of you and you go down like this? I'm not a fan of them. You've abandoned the Bradford press a long time ago. The Bradford press is an hybrid movement, and I think hybrid movements are not the move. What do you think about doing dumbbell pullovers without retraction? I found it really helped me to fill my lats. You're not supposed to retract for dumbbell pullovers, so that's good that you figured it out. Does a long caloric surplus, I suppose, along with lifting, help you maintain muscle while losing fat? Yes. When did you start doing giant sets? Would you recommend it to people if their cardio isn't that great? Deficit, you said. We'll get back to you. So Daniel asked, when did you start doing giant sets? I started the first day I started training because I realized it was the most efficient way to save time. And would I recommend it to people if their cardio isn't that great? Yes and no. Because if you jump into giant sets, your performance in the gym is going to be limited by your cardiovascular endurance, and we don't want that. So what you do first is you introduce easy supersets. Biceps and triceps is an easy superset. And once you build enough capacity, you introduce easy giant sets. So something, for example, like biceps, triceps, roll out is an easy giant set. Then you introduce hard supersets. A hard superset is something like a press and a pull. That's a hard superset. Then you can introduce hard giant sets. So a press, a pull, and abs, or lower body compounds and something else and abs. That's hard. And someone asks, is it possible? Blah blah blah. Does a long caloric deficit along with lifting help you maintain muscle while losing fat? Yes. The question is, if I train and I lose weight, do I maintain more muscle? And if I lose weight and I don't train, of course, the answer is yes. Favorite free volume exercise that's easy to superset end of workout? What a great question. Reverse pec deck, leg curls, any type of wrist curls, any type of calf raises. That's free volume. It incurs no systemic fatigue, and it still feeds volume to key muscle groups. How hard is hack squat plus pull-ups? Hard. Any lower compound movement plus something else, unless it's like wrist curls, is hard on your cardiovascular system. Because let's be honest, even at my level of cardio, I've been doing supersets for years now. Split squats plus anything makes me want to shoot myself in the face because it's a low body compound that's already vampiric enough in terms of energy. What do you think of doing your full workout as one giant set? Horrible idea. Never do this. The entire point of a giant set is to save time, but if it sabotages your performance, then there is no point. How would you improve your calisthenics backy program? I would just revamp it, and I was supposed to revamp it a long time ago. It just never came through. So I think I'm just going to wait until the next season of backy, and then I'll revamp it. I'm doing pull-ups into incline front squat, and I feel dead afterwards. Of course you do. Okay. We just did Gutas, and then we have... Oh, and for the people asking, the next Physique review stream is going to be in a long time. It's in a month. I need a break. But if you want a written review, go on the coffee page, ask a written review. You get that whenever you want. Okay, then we have Mr. Hank Hill. Hank, are you on the chat? Mr. Hank Hill? I know that my impression is terrible. Don't make fun of me. I'm not an American. I never watched King of the Hill. Yes, you're here? Okay, well, you'll be able to ask questions afterwards then. Share screen, window, Mr. Hank. Deport him. Hey. Psst. Okay, Hank. So Hank, you sent me a few pictures in bad lighting that I'm not going to show because honestly, the pictures in good lighting you sent me are not that dishonest. So from the back, you're fairly high body fat. You have very good curve to your posterior chain, and the arms look fairly small compared to the torso. So I would diagnose the start of a spider physique, but we'll see. Okay, from the side, massive arm strings, massive glutes. A little bit of a zoom. All right. Forearms are actually much more ahead than I thought they would be, but they look bigger than the upper arm, and the chest looks to be a little bit like lacking. So let's see. All right. Oh, and by the way, I think you sent me some interesting information. I think you're someone who used to powerlift, if I'm not mistaken. Mr. Hank, what did you send me? So Mr. Hank says, I've been training for 3 years with many strength goals. The first, okay, strength goals, you've trained mainly squat, bench, and deadlift. Currently, you're on a working capacity accumulation phase. Okay, and you started 3 years ago, and you were on 82 kilos, and now you're 88. And you don't really care that much about aesthetics, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. So looking at your physique, that's not surprising. It's what I would have guessed, because compared to your torso, your back is behind. And it's not just size, it's also what is big in your torso. You are built like a fridge. You don't have much lats. And this is an area that if you want to improve your physique, you really need to train on. I would also tell you to train the back of your neck. You know, when you zoom in, and this is again my aesthetic preference, but I always want to see a straight line from the back of your ear all the way down to your traps, because that thing where your neck tapers down like this, to me, looks pretty horrible. Okay, so we see that you have the thickness, you have traps, you have erectors, we can see them clearly, but the arms attached to them are fairly behind. Okay, from the front, so a relaxed pose. Just look at the contrast between your quads and the upper limbs. I think it speaks for itself. So more focus on chest, limbs, and abs. All right. That flex showcases that you have great forearms. So that's good. That's one less thing to isolate. That your biceps are not that bad. You just have short insertions. It's your triceps that need work. Okay. Once again, we see the legs, the forearms. So you're not necessarily even torso dominant in the normal regular sense. It's more that you are leg / traps dominant. It's interesting. And I think this actually showcases it that much better. It's a great pose for you. But if we take that pose, which is your best pose, and we try to improve it, well, one of the reasons why it's your best pose is because it's hiding your core and your chest. So these are the two areas that you will need to put more effort on. How much did you tell me that you can bench? You told me that you bench 100 kilograms. Okay. Or maybe you need to find an exercise that you can get stronger at that is going to actually have a stronger correlation to the size of your chest. And that was you before. So it's always great when people give me pictures of them before training, because like it's not like you didn't gain any muscle. You look like a completely different person. You gained a tremendous amount of muscle. But where you gain the muscle is where it's important. And this brings us back to someone in the chat who an hour ago said, there is no point as a beginner to focus on weak points because their entire body is a weak point. Okay, well, that's very badass to say, but this is, in a sense, what happens when you tell that to people. because Hank started from this, started training, and now he has areas that are way above the rest of the body, and now he has to play catch up if he cares enough to do so with the other areas. Okay, so Hank, going forward, if you want to improve your aesthetics, more arm isolation, and chest, vertical presses all day, every day, ones that actually you connect. Do you have any questions, Mr. Hank? No questions? Nah, you're good? Okay. Has anyone sent you a frog physique? We haven't had a frog physique yet. Your weightlifting backy program made me legs, traps, and shoulders dominant, and I actually like the look. Well, that's also something that can happen where you end up creating imbalances and you find out that you like it. It's the same for me. I have an imbalance between my upper arm and my shoulders. And if I sent a physique review to myself, I would tell myself your shoulders are behind. But my answer would be, yeah, it's on purpose. But oftentimes when people send me their physiques and they say what is behind, they don't know what is behind. It's not on purpose. It's an accident. And in hypertrophy and in bodybuilding, we don't want accidents. Mike is not working properly. Can someone confirm what Kevin Lennon is saying? Is this a bold-faced lie, or is this true? Because the mic is working properly on my end. It's fine. Kevin, did you lie? Was that a lie? Wow, you lied. What happens to liars on this chat? Crackling just a bit. Yeah, but the crackling is not the mic, it's YouTube. Like I know sometimes I go on and like click on the live to like put the new thumbnail or something, and I listen to the audio and it crackles. Send a letter to YouTube for some fucking reason they can't manage our own audio. It's popping sometimes, yeah. That's when I share the screen for some reason. It's on my end. No, I know it's not on your end. It's just that there's nothing I can do about it. UNH, I have golfer's elbow. The only curl I can do that don't aggravate it is seated barbell curl. I'll make gains with this exercise. Yes, you can. But experiment. Experiment with other exercises, because if you found one that works, others might work as well. I've been doing your female novice program during my weight loss. Lost 35 kilograms. Oh, tremendous. And now I'm 70 kilograms. How do I pivot to muscle gain, particularly regarding glutes and legs after a long period being in a deficit? Well, you up the volume from the novice program. So you do more hip hinges and more knee flexions. What are your favorite movements for shoulders? I like 80 press on the Smith. I like incline press with a very shallow incline. And I like cable lateral raises. Why do you consider upright row important? I don't. It's just that it's a valid shoulder isolation movement that has been demonized for too long. What angle do you do 80 press on the Smith? I know that a lot of people recommend about well, what? Okay, this end. About here. I do it here. So I'll do it almost with a straight bench because I just feel it more in my shoulders. Okay. Who do we have next? We had Hank. Next, we have Joseph. Joseph, are you on the chat? Joseph is a good example of something of a relevant archetype and theme that I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to. So let's begin with Joseph. Up. All right, first off, let's salute the mustache. Oh, wow, what is going on? Okay, good. Salutations for the mustache. Great mustache. 2, Holy fuck, the delts are ahead of pretty much everything else. Like it is quite visible. You have very good development of every single head. Maybe the front head is slightly behind. Surprisingly, I don't think I've ever seen that. Is that Puck from Berserk? I think it's Puck from Berserk. So not only do you have the biggest delts I've ever seen in relation to the rest of your body, you're also the one person who watched Berserk, and instead of being a brand of sacrifice tattoo, you got Puck. That also is to be saluted. You have good serratus. Your chest is behind, which is not surprising with shoulders that big. And you seem to have a very narrow waist. So let's see if this is confirmed by the other poses. Okay, I think it is more than confirmed by this pose. So your delts are dominating the rest of that physique. And that's a good look. That's a very aesthetic look. But you're going to have to fill out that frame. Did you send me information about you, Joseph? I think you did, because I do remember your name. All right. So Joseph, you are 5'10", and you're now 155 pounds. So at 5'10", you have a lot of potential. Realistically, you can gain 30 pounds in the next 5 to 10 years and still be fairly lean. And you joined the military. Okay. And right now you're bulking. Okay, that's what I wanted to see. Because yes, that's what you should be doing. Okay. So here we see that it explains why you're 155 pounds. It's because a lot of the weight that you're going to be gaining moving forward is going to be in the lower body. It's going to be in the quads, and it's going to be in the glutes and the hamstrings. And this should be an area that you do not actually neglect. Because while having great V-taper is good, it can be a bit ridiculous to have bird legs attached to that. And for you, it's going to be like mainly limbs. You're going to really have to focus on limb development. Because your traps are there. Like traps, shoulders, and even chest from that angle is much better. Okay. You have a good structure. And it's interesting to see that you look that good with that low of a body weight. But yeah, your limbs are fairly long. So this is going to be a problem area for you going forward. And unless you start to really isolate your forearms, your triceps, and your biceps right now, you're going to end up with an imbalance that is going to be tough to correct, because the more you weight, the bigger your shoulders are going to get because of just the way you're built. And honestly, it's not like your arms are bad or anything. Your biceps are not puny. You do have biceps. And I think that this is a Berserk t-shirt. So this confirms that this is a puck tattoo. And this was you before. So if I'm correct, this was you at 120 pounds. And you looked very, very, very skinny. You still had a big neck, though. Like your neck was already there. It's interesting. But outside of that, no muscle whatsoever. And even back then, it's so interesting to see that even back then, it could have been an easy prediction to see that your arms were going to be behind, because while you had no shoulders to speak of, your arms were even smaller than the shoulders. But your neck and traps are already there. So it's interesting, because if we look at this picture and we go back to this, it's like your neck and traps grew into the rest of the body, or more like the rest of the body grew into the neck and traps. Yeah, and that's a good picture of. Okay, so you did get a brand of sacrifice on top of puck, so it balances itself out. You have good traps, good teres major. You have good real delts. Maybe the lats are the ones that are slightly behind, because even the erectors and the rhomboids are pretty big. Okay, that's a very good aesthetic picture. This is the favorite picture of like guys who are like at that lean body mass, but it would be so much improved if your arms were bigger. Your arms are really a problem area. Okay. So Joseph, as I said, you have good torso potential. You have great shoulders, straps, upper back. You need to put all of your efforts on your limbs. So you are typically the type of person that if you decided to run a limb focus program, as crazy and out there as it sounds, it would actually be good. It's actually something that you could benefit from. And of course, Joseph, keep bulking. And do it progressively as you've been doing. You've already added 30 pounds in the past 2 years. You can add another 30 pounds in the next 4 5 years. We don't want to make you fat, but you also strike me as the type of person that would really struggle to get fat. Okay, up. I'm going to take a small break to use the bathroom, and then I'll be right there. And the next person we have on the list that we're going to cover is going to be Lisy. I recommend you guys stick around because in the S's, we have a few people who have potential and like physiques that I've personally been fairly shocked by. Like, I have 2 names in particular, people that I really want to share with you. So don't go anywhere, and I'll be right there. All right. Oh. Boop. Boop. This camera is stupid. Okay. Next up, we have Lisy, who goes by the name Lisy Dipshit. I suppose that Dipshit is your last name and Lisy is your first name. And I'm going to start with this picture that I named Potential because I saw great potential in it. Up. And you are on the chat. Excellent. Share. Lisy. So Lisy is part of the long hair tribe, a tribe that only accepts very handsome men. So based on this picture, to me, this could potentially be your best pose going forward because your triceps, chest, traps combo looks already amazing as you are now. And there is still a lot of room for you to grow into that. Let me see what you sent me when it comes to your stats. Good looking. So you are 6 feet and around 93 pounds. And you have only bulked and recounts for most of your training history. To me, that's good. And that's what you should keep doing because it works clearly. At 190 pounds, if you keep doing that slowly and conservatively, you can gain 10, 20, 30 pounds in the next 10 years. That's absolutely doable because you seem to have the potential for that. Now, let's look at the rest of the body. So you have good legs and you have good glutes. So there's not much for me to actually criticize in terms of your lower body development. Maybe trying to find exercises that you connect more with the hamstrings in particular to make sure that your glutes don't steal that volume. But from the front, you also have very good quads. So legs are out of the equation. Nothing to say about that. So let's look at the upper body. You have good arms. They look thick from the front. You have, as I said, excellent traps and delts, very good chest. You have good chest insertions. I think you're the type of person that will greatly benefit from training their obliques. Your core in itself, I see some development. We see some hints of abs, but the obliques in themselves are not developed at all. And so it makes it look like you have a lot of fat around that waist. But I know for a fact that it has more to do with a form of softness due to no training directly that area rather than actually being fat because you're fairly lean outside of that. Okay, another berserk enjoyer. Okay, good biceps. Forearms are behind. Triceps are behind. Right? Another 2 things to add to your list. Yeah, from the back, we see the traps, we see the delts. So these whatever you're doing for them, keep doing. That's something that I tell people. I'm not here to reinvent the wheel or find issues when there's no issues. These areas are doing just fine, and you're using straps, so you didn't fall for the no straps meme. Okay, from the front again, the shelf muscles are great. Hey, maybe you know what? Your chest might have really good potential, but still be a little bit behind your shoulders. So maybe try to introduce more upper chest exercises. And that was you before. So you went from emo scene kid to like goth daddy in how much time did you send me? How long did you train? I mean, you're on the chat, so you can just tell us. Okay, so you've been lifting for 4 years now, and you have Oma Tokita as your goal physique, which is a very good goal physique. Okay, so this was you before, and that's your back. Okay. On the back, as I said, I don't have much to say. I mean, there is trap dominance, but if you want the Oma Tokita physique, that's what he has. So it's mostly the arms that I'm concerned about because he does have big arms. Yeah, the lats are slightly, the lats are okay. And you, of course, look good in a tank. So for you, Mr. Lisy dipshit, going forward, prioritize arm isolation, biceps, triceps, forearms, and train your core and obliques. Right? For the rest of the body, try to find exercises that you connect with for your upper chest, for your hamstrings, and that's your plan going forward for the next 3 years. Keep doing your bulks and recomps because that's working well. There is absolutely no point for you to cut at this point in your development. It would just be sabotaging your performance. Do you have any questions, Mr. Lisy? The what physique? The Oma Tokita physique. Lisy, if you can type it for him in the chat. Yeah, and the obliques training, people say it's genetics. It is in a sense where some people have that area that like pops out more, but I've seen a difference personally as someone who never had any obliques when I started to isolate them, and it just makes you look bigger and better. And H, what is your favorite muscle apart from biceps and abs? Favorite muscle to train or my favorite muscle in my body? My favorite muscle to train is triceps, but it's one of my shittiest in my body. To side bench, train the front of the abs too. It stretches it, but it should be mostly for obliques. Yeah, this is a very good physique. And we see too that a good physique is not necessarily an end of the road physique or like an advanced physique. It's the potential in the physique and it's the aesthetic flow. Lisy has had a flow to his physique. Many people send me physiques that still have room for progression, but there is a flow. Sometimes people have huge physiques off of drugs that have no flow, and so their physiques suck. And this is really what you do not want. NH wound obliques make it worse for people who store a lot of fat in love handles. No, as someone who stores all of their fat in the love handles, I can tell you that the more your obliques grow, the more of an area the fat has to spread, and so it looks better. Because instead of having this thing where you have like your shoulders and then your torso and then two blobs for love handles, now your obliques do this. Because obliques are blocky. Okay, you have to remember, your obliques are not attached to your hips. They run throughout your core. And so it makes the entirety of the side of the core look more solid and more compact. And H, can I just send them in a coffee if I'm subscribed? Yes. And wait, obliques help with love handles. They help with the visual of the core where the love handle is. So if you thicken all of it around it, your love handles look smaller. And on top of that, it makes everything look tighter. And H, how do you bust a vertical pressing plateau? I do behind the neck. Drop sets tend to be good. So you stay within your rep range for as many sets as possible with your working weight. And then if you have an extra set that you cannot do with the working weight that kicks you out of the rep range, you just lower the weight. Are Smith machine, Bulgarian split squats good alternative to the free weight variant? They are the better alternative to the free weight variant. I'm adding in oblique work. Are side bends on hyper bench good? Yes. Would you recommend sending a physique critique if you're frustrated with progress and current physique? Well, that's sort of the point. If you are satisfied and you don't need my help, don't send a demand for a physique critique. And H, did you change your opinions on the forearms and calves tier list? It's been a while since you did the video. Nope. Still the same. What natural steroids work? None of them. If it works, it's a steroid and it's not natural. If it doesn't, then it's natural, but it's not a steroid. All of these pills that are sold to you, like the testosterone and whatever, they don't work. It's been established. Whoever is telling you the studies that they work, sell them. So connect the two and two together in your head. If something like this worked, it would have been banned by the FDA already, because it would mean that it has an impact on your hormonal profile. What do you do for forearms? I do one thing that I'm not going to reveal because it's going to be for a video that I'm preparing. I do isolation naturally, and I do a lot of volume. But creatine works. Yeah, it's natural. Creatine is found in your food, and it's cheap as fuck, and also it works, but the difference that it makes is minimal. Whereas look at the difference that the people who try to sell you testosterone claim. They claim dozens of pounds of muscles, which is not possible. Okay. Next up, we have Matt Atake, who I saw on the chat. Matt, are you still on the chat? And Matt sent me pictures, but at least he gave me he told me when they happened. Yes, sir, you're here? Okay, perfect. Let's get you. So we're going to start with your start, and then I'm going to show your progression, and then I'm going to read the message that you sent me, because I think you sent me a lot of information. Up. Share. Okay, so this is Matt when he started, before he was actually actively lifting. Looking at this, I can't really tell you what areas are going to be big or not. You do the normal body of someone who's never lifted. After that, we have you. I think the next one is here. So it's all the way in. So this is you 1 year in. And you essentially got bigger everywhere. Your shoulders showed good potential because 1 year in, they were already starting to round. You had good core development. Your chest seemed to be a little bit behind. For 1 year of progression, that's excellent. Then you sent me your college pick. And the college pick, there is a difference, but it's fairly minimal. And I think you told me that you had an issue with consistency and really sticking to lifting. So that could be the start of it. The arms are very small compared to the shoulders. So you're a good example of someone who is naturally in a way torso dominant. I don't know the split that you followed back then, so it's hard to know if it's natural or not. All right. Then you sent me post-grad's picture. And here I can say confidently that, well, your arms got bigger, but the rest of the physique stagnated. Now, it could also just be a trick of the fact that you are higher body fat here. So it could just also be that you're going from bulks to bulks to bulks, and I always catch you in the middle of the bulk, and you might still actually have become bigger. But the one area of your body that, to me, is evidently ahead of the rest is your back. And we'll see that the more your physique starts to evolve, because comparing your back and your front, you are back dominant by far. Especially when you look at the shoulders, like you have a very good back. Okay. And then after that, so after the post grad, you sent me the pictures that I have now. So it's you recently. And you are even higher body fat, which is making your shoulders look smaller. Your arms have not improved that much, right? Your chest has not improved at all. But your back is still very much there. And it's interesting to see that the more body weight you gained, the more thicker your back became. You just lost the definition. But if your goal is to really get back into it, no pun intended, whatever you're doing for back is not going to be really relevant because it seems to grow regardless of what you do. It's the front that I'm going to need you to really focus on. And the fact that you are now higher body fat than you used to be when you were 17, 18, like in college or high school, is not really something that you even need to focus on. I don't think you're the type of person who needs to cut, because what will you do with a cut? You'll be just left with whatever is underneath, and that's not going to be very satisfying for you. So you're someone who should be recomping, should be focusing on training, and that training should focus entirely on core, chest, and arm isolation. That's what I want to see, because these are the areas that are going to make you look better. Now, we also see that you seem to have lost a decent amount of shoulders. So your shoulder routine from back then should be summoned back from the dead. Because the legs, I mean, they're small-ish, but compared to the upper body, they seem to be even slightly ahead. And that just might be an indictment of your upper body development. Because you sent me, I think, your message, and in the message, Mr. Matt Attaqué. Yeah, you told me you took time off, you gained body fat, and you're trying to rebuild, but you feel like you've lost your way. Aside from arm gains, not happy with your physique. Legs and chest need work. Absolutely. And your advice is appreciated. Okay. Well, then looking at the pictures that you just sent me recently, I think you don't really need to care about diet that much. You need to really get back hardcore into training. Put the priority on your limbs, legs, and arms, and problem areas of the chest and the core. Your back will take care of itself. You used to have big shoulders. I don't see why your shoulders wouldn't get back bigger when you start to refocus on them again. Do you have any questions, Matt? Was that complete enough? Got it? Perfect. I appreciate the fact that I get to be honest and not mince my words with these videos. Because if you're not willing to listen to criticism and you get upset, like some people do, then you're not going to progress. What's your opinion on kettlebell physique? I think training with kettlebells is inferior for hypertrophy. I think that there are a lot of people who have very good physiques who train with kettlebells, and that the two are not necessarily connected. I think training with kettlebells is something that people who have very busy lives like to do. So it's an okay way to do minimalist trainings. Reconnecting to the stream helps with sound issues. Interesting. Is straps isolation necessary? No. I don't think it's necessary because the majority of compound movements for the back will train it. That being said, there are compound movements for the back that are more trap biased, and you might want to do them. because a lat dominant back is not necessarily a bad looking back, but it's not tremendous either. Reese, don't worry, I'm going to roast you. What's your thoughts on training on an empty stomach? I think it's stupid for the most part, because you want to be full of energy when you train. That being said, you also don't want to have a full stomach. If we send pics today, will they be reviewed next week? No, because the next Physique review is going to be in February, so you'll have to wait for that. What do you think of Kelso shrugs? Very good trap isolation. What if you're lopsided from a pinched nerve? Get that treated, because a pinched nerve can lead to muscle atrophy and loss of function. So your number one problem is not how can I gain muscle, it's how do I not lose muscle. How do you get yoked with calisthenics? It's very hard. It's very hard. This is why I would recommend a mix of free weights and calisthenics. NH, any banger upper traps exercises? Cheat shrugs are very good. I also find that upright rows tend to hit them fairly well. Lateral raises, actually, if you do them and you are very trap sensitive in a sense, like I am, whenever you start to raise your shoulder like this, you'll feel it. Yeah, cheat shrugs, power shrugs they're all the same thing. Power shrugs is the politically correct appellation, I say. And then heavy rows, stuff like croc rows with a semi-open elbow tend to be really good when you really allow the weight to stretch your trap. When is the next program review? It's going to be in January, I think. Okay, next up, who do we have? Next up, we have Max. Oh, and Max had a very impressive physique, but I also had something to say to Max, because I think he is doing something that could potentially ruin his potential. So let's get to you, mister. Up. Share. Okay, so the phone is all bit in the way. It's not a great picture, but to give you an idea of what we're dealing with, I think Max did send me when he was younger, if I can find it. It's going to be at the end. It's always at the end. But he also sent me information, so let's see if I can read that for you guys. Yes. All right. So he's 3 years, which technically is not true because he started 8 years ago for wrestling and football. So this is not someone who discovered lifting and physical activity 3 years ago. He's always been an athlete. And he's 20 years old, and he is currently bulking. So we'll see that the bulking part is going to be important. So from this picture, we see good delts, good traps, good biceps, and the chest seems to be slightly behind, but it's not a great picture because I can't really see with the camera. Then we have the legs. So for Max, I'm not going to have to say much. The legs are very developed, but there is an imbalance. And the imbalance is that the VMO is really behind, whereas the side of the quad is insane. Now the insertions are very short, so it's going to make it so that that sweep of the quad is going to be even more impressive. But Max, you really need to start to pay attention to that VMO. So stuff like belt squats with the toes pointed in, not like pigeon-toed, but like your foot facing forward. Stuff like split squats would be really good for you. All right. Then we have a core. We have probably so far the best core and the best abs we've seen in the stream. We have very good developed serratus, we have good obliques, we have good abs. So that's great. And we also have a short bicep. So today's the symbol of today's biceps was short insertions for some reason, which is not a bad look because it gives you that peak. But when I look at that pose, my eye is immediately caught by that serratus. That's a very good looking rib cage. It's a good structure for bodybuilding. You also have good forearms. The tricep seems to be a little bit behind. Okay, double bicep. So the double bicep also showcases more of that. Or yeah, the triceps are the area that needs focus, but the shoulders and the lats are good. And this is this is quite the collection picture with the man himself, Mr. Ronnie Coleman. I like the fact that he's still able to smile, even after all of the surgeries he had to go through. And I do have to say that he mugs you in terms of form development. So he still has that going on for him. All right. Now it's you on a book. I think that you overdid it because you sent me information and you told me that you cut down from 213 pounds to 174 pounds. So you lost 40 pounds. 40 pounds is not an acceptable amount of weight to bulk into or to lose for a cut. That is my take. I know that for some reason it's controversial, where like now it's this obsession with people who try to get as heavy as possible. Here's how you have to think about a bulk. A bulk is caloric surplus to be able to build muscle. Do you need 40 extra pounds on your frame to be able to build muscle? The answer is no. Most of that you're going to lose anyways. So how about cutting that surplus in half, getting half of the fat, and still having a decently lean physique? Because I don't doubt that you'll be able to lose the fat, but what toll does it take on your body and what is the advantage for your training? The answer is that it's not doing much. And it's not like you got fat, thank God, but I don't see the types of improvement that I would expect from such a high like weight gain. And that I think is a picture of you when you were like a year into the gym, and this was a picture of you before you started the gym. So you truly went a long way and you look like a completely different person, and you really started like to look like a man, like you bulked up into a guy, but try to not take it too far. I understand that it can be addictive when you get your taste of your first bulk and you see how you transform, but your first bulk is like your first love. You'll never get to taste that again. The amount of muscle and actual lean mass you'll put on your first bulk is not potentially something that is replicable. Going forward, you have to be more and more conservative, which is again against the grain because lifters tend to do the opposite, or they become less and less conservative and they try to gain more and more weight per bulk, thinking I have to force growth. The only thing you're doing is you're forcing fat. That's it. The more you gain, the less you can hope to gain on a bulk, so the more conservative the bulk should be. But I'm going to end on a good note, which is your back. This is the first picture of your back, and holy fuck, you are gifted in that area. So for you going forward, Max, I would recommend more conservative bulks, focusing more on arm isolation, focusing more on VMO, and that's that. The rest, the core you have, the shoulders you have, from what I remember, the chest was slightly behind. Chest is, yes, slightly behind. So maybe focus also on chest. But you have a good physique. And if you sort of take more time and are a bit more patient, you're only 20 years old. You have another 20 years of growth in front of you. Don't waste it yo-yo dieting. It's just not worth it. Yeah, for a 20-year-old, that's a tremendous back. And, you know, the back is a good indicator of potential for muscle building. Oftentimes, when you have someone who has a gorilla back, it tends to be from years and years and years of actual lifting. Now, we also have to keep in mind NH water. Yes, thank you. We also have to keep in mind that this is someone who's been training for football and wrestling. So he's technically been training for 10 years. And this is why someone who has been an athlete is going to have a better physique than someone who is not an athlete and just jumps into bodybuilding, because there is a solid base here. One ab isolation and one oblique a week, too low. Depends. You're doing 3 sets for each. If yes, that's 6 sets. That's okay. How big of a caloric surplus should I be on? I'm at the moment on 300-ish, but should I up it to 500? No, there is no point. 300 is plenty. Lisy, want to add 2 oblique movements to my week, and any recommendations? Besides Russian twists, I don't connect them very well. Yeah, Russian twists are hit or miss for most people. So I would recommend for you side twists that tend to be fairly good. And I also would recommend for obliques, if you have an hyperextension bench, to do your oblique raises on the hyperextension bench, because you can really play with the range of motion. NH, any ab exercise I should include? For you, you already do ab exercises twice a week, but I would recommend, if you can do it 3 to 4 times a week, you do rollout and decline. Try cable crunches to see if you actually like it and connect with it. Try knee raises and machine crunches. This machine is highly underrated because it's always old people who do like 5 like shaking crunches on them, but they really help fill your core. Your Russian never done any Russian twists, you're going to be banned by Putin. And H, how are you doing? Less stress than a few months ago. Yeah, but it's like on the spectrum of stress, I'm slightly less stressed, but I'm still stressed. I don't think there's ever going to be a day where I'm not stressed. I do leg raises on the bench. Do knee raises. Much easier to progressively overload. I'll decline with it sit-ups and leg raises 2 times a week, enough for abs. I think so, as long as you're progressing. Okay, next up, because we only have 30 minutes left. So we covered max. Okay, now we have Mugen Prime, and I was shocked by Mugen's physique, and you're going to see why. He has a very similar body to Mr. Smiley Face that we saw earlier, that is now in bed and sleeping. Okay, let's cover you, Mr. Mugen. Up. Okay. So we see, first and foremost, long torso, lots of space, and that means that erectors are going to be usually a weak point. We also see long limbs, so the arms are also going to be automatically a weak point. But the upper back, in particular, is very aesthetic. Wide shoulders, good teres major minor, good traps. The lats are slightly behind. That's a better pose. And here we see that potential I was talking about, because the insertions of the back are super aesthetic. And so if more mass is added onto that, it's going to be game over. Especially the line and the connection between the traps and the erectors will look amazing. Here I see skinny arms, which is normal, and you'll see that Mugen actually came back from much worse than this. You're going to be amazed by how much mass he put on. And lats. All right, an even better picture and an even better representation of the potential. That waist must be around 26 inches. Like, it's probably one of the smallest waists that I've ever seen on a human being. The shoulder to waist ratio is almost 1:2. This means that when Mugen starts to really pack on more mass, like conservatively with a slow bulk, the only thing that will grow is what's up there. So now imagine that very same back with more upper traps, more delts, and bigger arms. It's going to look insane. Okay. Double bicep from the back, which is more like of a double lat spread because the biceps are very small, but it's understandable. And the legs are good. And this is, to me, it's such a blessing, because the less weak areas you have, the easier it is to fill your frame. So when I have someone like this who is small, like in the sense of who has so much room for size, who already has really good quads and legs, this is something that I can be like, okay, well, that can be pushed to the side because it's already there. Okay, we see that the side chest, we see like a real good example of back dominance. The real delt is more dominant than the front delt, which is incredible. But that to me screams just potential, because there is so much room for improvement here. And that is probably one of the most insane transformations I've ever seen. Like, you're still relatively thin now, but back then, probably not even healthy back then. So you already did a great thing for your health, that you put on some weight and some quality mass. It's interesting to see also how when you are undernourished and very skinny, it was impossible to tell your traps and shoulder potential. And now they're fairly big, especially your traps. So good job gaining that weight. You really gain, like some people like to talk about like lean mass and everything. For Mugen here, whatever he could have gained, lean mass or not, would have been great. But he really put on a solid 20, 30, 40 pounds of lean mass. Now, going forward for you, what I would recommend is focus a lot on arm isolation. So biceps, triceps, forearms. Focus on your presses, especially your vertical presses. And then whatever you're doing for legs and for back, keep doing that. Because you have done an amazing job and you're just getting started. So I know that it might sound a bit, I don't know, like influencery hypocritically, but like when I tell you that I'm looking forward to seeing your progression, I'm not lying. I love human potential, and I'm always excited to see people with incredible physiques and potential to see how far they're going to get. That's what really interests me. That's why I preach natural lifting, is because I know there's so much more. I know we can do so much more, and you're going to be part of that. As you are seeing me, I'm trying to plug that fucking laptop. Okay. All right. I apologize. Banana time. I'm starving and I'm supposed to hit a very lengthy arm session afterwards. So, huh? Why do people say that eating bananas in public is weird? It's perfectly normal. Mm. So, for the people who are asking how long it took, Mugen has been training for 1.5 years and he went from 130 pounds to 170 pounds. So, he gained 40 pounds. And he's 6'3". So he has insane potential. Like Mugen, you can reach the 220, 230 pounds and keep that frame and keep that freakiness. It's going to be crazy. Looking at your days, you do incline bench, pull up, dumbbell row, leg press, arms and shoulders. Yeah. So typically, Mugen, for you, I would try and put you on a split that's 4 times a week with 2 days that are focused on arms. So one day that's focused on triceps and another one biceps, forearms. Yeah. Okay. Next, we have Reese. Mr. Reese. And Reese sent me transformations and a physique goal. So we're going to start with that. Why do you peel your banana? You're not supposed to eat the skin of the banana. Did you not know that? Am I teaching you that today on the stream? Okay. All right, Reese, you told me to shit on you and to roast you. There we go. All right, so that's your transformation. So you went from admittedly a pretty cute twink to now a very muscular hunk of a man. So good job for that. And looking at the improvement, arms and biceps in particular are very much improved. Your chest tremendously improved, your traps also, and your legs I cannot see, but that is a good physique. You also have a controlled waist, what I would call a controlled waist, where you don't have too much love handles. So that's the sign that the bulk was effective and it wasn't fat. Okay, then we see your back, and your back is a great representation. See, if I showed these pictures and the ones that I showed you previously of the upper body of Reese, some people would say like, oh, like he looks the same. If you think he looks the same, you don't have an eye for hypertrophy. Just look at the waist to upper back ratio of all of these pictures. His upper back looks 1.5 thicker and wider than it used to be, and that's through pure muscle growth. So good job. And you sent me the back too. So again, great example of the progress that you've made. You've gained a lot of delts, you've gained a lot of traps, and especially the lats. And that makes your waist look thinner. You do seem to have a small imbalance in terms of shoulder blades, or your right shoulder blade seems to sit higher. It just might be mild scoliosis. I also see that you have bananas and onions in your package. That's good. These are good. Okay. And your goal physique is double cheeked up on a Sunday afternoon. And it's a Greek statue. If your goal physique is a Greek statue, I think you're a good person. So, and by the way, this is something that I'm going to start to offer in the future. We're going to do streams where you guys will get to send me your dream physique, fictional or real, I don't care, with pictures. And then together on the stream, we'll do a workshop where I'll look at the physique, tell you the weak parts, the strong parts, and then I'll make a program live with you guys. So it'll be a workshop. So let's do that with Reese's goal body. What about this statue? A very good chest. Shoulders are developed, but slightly under. Very good traps. Great obliques. Great oblique development. And slightly smaller legs. Okay. Looking at the back, likewise, traps are dominant, glutes are dominant, slightly smaller lats. Let's look at Reese. Does he compare to that? Big traps, just like the statue. Good chest, just like the statue. Good oblique potential, just like the statue. The legs might actually get a little bit too big. You might actually are starting to mug the statue that you want to actually represent with. So it's something to keep in mind. Okay. A relaxed picture. We enjoy relaxed pictures because they're honest and we can see that your traps are indeed there. Your shoulders and chest ratio, if you want to go for that goal physique, must remain the same because that's the ratio of the statue, and your arms are also what they're supposed to be. Okay, from the side, you definitely have bigger legs than the statue, but you might have smaller glutes. We see that the obliques is there. This is what I mean when I say obliques are aesthetic. Look at that. Take away that, and he would have love handles. Because he has obliques, it looks great. Okay. All right, from the back, we see that your glutes are indeed underwhelming compared to your quads. You do have very good traps. Okay. All right, so if I were to give you a physique review outside of the statue that you produced, I would tell you, focus on arms, focus on bicep and tricep isolation in particular, and forearms. But looking at the statue and your goal, I would tell you to not do that. Instead, keep doing exactly what you've been doing for your chest to shoulder ratio. Keep the arms as they are. The area where you have to focus on the most is your glutes. So keep isolating your obliques and trying to find movements that you connect with that grows your glutes more, and like take a step back for your legs. Hello, Skyzochu. And as you continue doing that preacher curl from arm wrestling on though? No, I didn't, because it wasn't that great for hypertrophy. Okay. Next up, we have smack. Up. And by the way, if you are rewatching this as a replay and you feel like doing timestamps, that's appreciated. It allows people to find themselves. Ah, okay. Never mind then. I'm sorry. Wow. That was weird. Okay, let's try again. Okay. So we have smack. Immediately, incredible biceps. Dominant biceps. Compared to the shoulders are slightly behind. Very good forearms. Very good traps. Chest is a bit behind. And the triceps look sweepy from the side, but it might just be the fact that you're pushing off of your lats. So let's see. Okay, that's not a good pose. I want a front pose. Okay, much better. Okay, so yes, wow. That is biceps dominance if I've ever seen it. You might even be more bicep dominant than I am. And you also are forearm dominant. So biceps, forearms, keep doing you. It's clearly working. Triceps is where it's at. So tricep isolation would do you well. And chest. Chest and triceps are very easy to program. You do a day where you do one horizontal press, one long head of the tricep isolation, one lateral head of the tricep isolation, one chest isolation, you're good. Do we have more of the front? Yes, more of the front. Right. So you have very good delts, you have very good biceps, but we see from here that usually from that angle, I should be able to see underneath that portion here, the tricep, and I don't see it. So the long head of the tricep needs work. You have a good core, good serratus. Tough to judge the abs here because you're doing a pseudo vacuum in a way. Okay, a relaxed pose. Ah, what are you doing? Okay, relaxed pose. So the traps are very good, biceps are very good. Yeah, the delts are a little bit behind. So delts, chest, and triceps. Well, that's a push day. That's great. Now let's see, and you do have abs, so I do see that here. Now let's see if I compared with your back. You also do have a good back, but here I see that the traps are indeed way ahead. So lats 100%. Right. And from here, I think it's even more evident from there that there is one area that's better. Now, when it comes to what you should be doing, bulking, recomping, or whatever, I think you're a good candidate for just a recomp. You don't need to cut. You don't have any sizable reason to cut, but you do have decent amount of body fat on you, and that will fuel progression in the gym. Okay, back double bi. We see the biceps again. And the delts, it feels like the front delt is good, actually. It's the side delt that's behind. And from the side, we see that amazing bicep. So for you, Smack, going forward, chest and triceps, priority number one. Isolate the lateral head of your shoulder as much as possible, and isolate and train your lats seriously, because the rest of the body is already there. It's just going to keep growing as it is. And you are a sneakerhead too. Are you guys having a discussion in the chat of who's Arab and who's not? Why is it always a thing? I keep having people ask me if I'm an Arab too. Oh, you're Afghan. I see. Okay. And then do you eat eggs with the shell? No. Okay. Next up, we have, so we Smiley. Oh, next up, we have the first woman to be covered in this physique review, who I think is on the chat, Miss Sophia. So let's see. Chat, do not get weird, please. I did tell Sophia that I apologized in advance if anyone was being weird in the chat. Keep talking about Arabs, chat. This is less controversial. All right. Share screen. Up. Okay. Boom. And Sophia, you did send me a message. And you told me, and you also sent me your programs, that's appreciated. And you told me I'm 19, been training for 2 years, and you're a vegetarian about 3 months ago. You do a 4 times a week upper lower split. You weigh 132 pounds, and you squat 200 pounds for 7 on the squat. You bench 120 pounds, and you deadlift 225 pounds. And your physique goals are you want a giant back plus abs. Okay, so giant back and abs. Okay, I'll keep that in mind as I review your physique. So, talking about the abs, you have abs that I call like not necessarily skinny fat abs, but you have abs that are visible in certain lighting, but they don't pop. If you want them to pop, it's very simple. It will not come via cutting your 130 pounds. It will come via just building them up. So weighted crunches, weighted cable crunches, weighted sit-ups, all of the things you can think of that are going to stretch the abs and really challenge them, that is what you should be doing going forward. All right. Then we have arms. You have good biceps. I don't know how much you quote unquote cheated by pushing them off of your lats, but you have an interesting ratio. And it's a ratio that, by the way, is extremely common in women. Well, the delts in women can be capped, but they're always going to be slightly smaller than the upper arm. Women tend to have amazing bicep genetics. I don't know why, I don't have an explanation as to why, but I do see that here. So good. Your form is also in line with that. I do see that your posterior chain seems to be slightly behind. Maybe it's because you don't care. You know, I speak to a lot of women who their goals are not aligned with what the majority of women want from the gym, and that's fine. Because at the end of the day, if you're bodybuilding as a woman, you're building the body that you want to build for yourself. Okay, now we see your back. So that's very relevant. You do have definition, and we see the ridges that developing your traps tend to create. It's my personal take that training back for women, in terms of aesthetics, is probably their like strongest part, because the way the female back is structured, once it's hypertrophy, it looks fairly good. The thing too is that you'll always have a small neck, more or less, because of just nature and just biology. So you'll get also that like contrast between the neck and the upper back. In terms of what I would criticize with your upper back, it's tough to see because of your top, but you do seem to have a trap dominance here. And if that's what you're going for, that's great. Okay. So your bicep is long, and so you have potential, and you seem to have good lats. We see it from that angle here. The forearms are behind. I'm not going to tell you to isolate your forearms. It might not be something that you want. Up. Okay, you have good shoulders. You have good shoulder development. They're fairly capped too. And we see the biceps here again. The forearms are actually not that bad. And the legs. Okay, so you have very, very dominant quads. I would tell you to put a lot more accent on hip hinges, because you seem to have quad dominance. And even for like the future and preventing potential injuries going forward and knee problems, it would be great to like put more emphasis and focus on these hinges. Yeah, so your quads are very developed, and you also have a fairly narrow waist and good arms. So if your goal is to be more back dominant, then it's also something that maybe you can take a step back on. It's again up to your preferences. Okay, a more relaxed pose. So you do have good potential for everything like abs, because you have a very like the way your torso is built is you have a lot of width for a woman, and you have the narrow waist that comes with it. So this would be a very good look once you get your abs bigger. And then last picture, tricep flex. Yeah, it's your physique is fairly balanced outside of the lower body that is quite dominant, but the rest of that, like, there's no glaring problems or things to correct. You have a good physique for a woman, which is fairly insulting to even say, because we should start to move past it and start to really push the standards also for women. So scratch that, Sophia. Keep training your upper back. Heavy rows if you can. If your grip is a limiting factor, start to strap up. Posterior chain, Romanian deadlifts would be great for you, because you'll get traps and posterior chain. And just keep doing that. Keep training. But I really appreciate you sending your physique for review, and I hope that more women are empowered by this and they send our physique for review. The more women see that other women have also high goals for bodybuilding, the more they're going to be motivated. Is she mugging your wife? I will not answer that question. As a married man, I can tell you, never answer that question. Thank you, Mr. NH. Thank you. And yes, it's the same banana. Okay, I savor the banana. Finish the banana? Never. Okay. Next up, we have Saar, who is a celebrity. Some of you guys might know him, who has a meme page on Instagram, and who is also part of the entire power building crusade. So he is my ally in this entire thing. All right, and he told me to roast him. I will roast you. You don't even have to ask. It's funny because every single picture you sent me is named support this, support that. So you roasted yourself in reality. And you sent me messages, I think, Mr. Subpar. You sent me messages and you said, hello, I'm 26, 10 years of training. I'm 5'8", weighing around 165 pounds. You're doing 2 to 4 times a week full body. The muscle groups you're focusing the most on are chest and lats. I'll see and I'll confirm whether or not you are correct in your suspicion that these are the muscles that must grow, as I believe they are my weakest body parts. Most of my training history was powerlifting, unsurprisingly, and I switched to bodybuilding a couple of years ago due to health issues, preventing me from barbell squatting and deadlifting. Yes. All right. Let us open your pics. Up and share. Okay, Mr. Subpar. So here is your tricep flex. First off, congratulations, you are part of the 5% of powerlifters who developed triceps doing only presses. You have good triceps. Not a good shot for me to judge your shoulder size because they sort of morph together here, but you also have a decent core and you have, of course, very good legs. Your chest does seem to be slightly behind. So that is already confirmed. That suspicion is confirmed. All right, now a side chest. It confirms that indeed your side chest is not that big because when you do this, my eyes go here. Well, it goes here first. You're married, so you're off the market. Too bad. But then I look at your arm strings. You have very developed arm strings. They look very good. But this amount of sweep and mass is not found in the upper body, which is normal. Powerlifting is a lower body sport. Just like most strength sports, you're going to have a dominant lower body. And this also confirms my suspicion that your delts are slightly behind. Okay? Most muscular. I like this pose because it shows a lot. I just dropped my banana on myself. You saw nothing. So incredibly advanced quads. Although it's interesting, it looks like there is an imbalance between the right and the left quad. One looks bigger than the other. Your forearms need work. I hope that you're isolating them if you're bodybuilding now. You have good traps, but they connect to shoulders that to me are not what they should be. So you have both a shoulder and a chest issue. They're both weak areas. Good news is that this is easily corrected. If you train 3 times a week, I want 2 of these to be push days, one focused on horizontal, one focused on vertical. And the arms in their totality could be bigger. Okay. Same exact pose, shows the same exact problem. You have a big neck and you have a good core. So these are, again, are 2 areas we can take off of the page. We don't need to worry about that. It's already there. Okay. Now we can talk about your lats. You said lats and chest are my weak points. This is confirmed. So chest number 1, lats number 2. I don't know what exercises you're doing. I do think you sent me. You did send me your program, if I'm not mistaken. No, you did not. Well, you can always send it to me later and we can discuss it if you want additional advice. But dumbbell pullovers, weighted chin-ups if you can, supinated lat pull down for these lats, that would do tremendous. Then a flex, and you have good biceps too. They're not that bad. So the issue is not going to really be catching up on the arms. It's most going to be shoulders, chest, and lats. And then your back. This is a good example of what powerlifting is going to do to your back. Now, it's not a bad thing. You're thick like a fridge, but we don't have the small definition and the small details that we like to see in a back. So more rows for more teres major minor. Your erectors are already there, and you're like really leaning backwards. So it's, of course, it makes them look even bigger. But even the traps, I mean, they look big from the front, but your lower and mid traps are fairly non-existent. So I hope your exercise selection covers that. and then the back double bicep that really showcases how thick your erectors truly are, and that you have thickness in your traps. You just don't have the definition that we're expecting and wanting to see. So, Mr. Subpar, going forward, my advice is priority number 1 and 2, chest and lats. Priority number 3 is going to be shoulders and arms. Priority number 4 is going to be back. Just with that, I know that you have experience. You will be able to craft a good program. And if you want to run it by me, absolutely, I will take a look at it. Why is this fucking camera doing this? Cool. So now you get to look at a French guy, blurry, eating a banana. Are you enjoying yourself? Is this a good stream? This is peak. Look at this. This is like abstract art. Every Frenchman eats banana in a blurry room. Take a screenshot of this and you can sell it for tens of thousands of dollars to some French guy. Okay. Can we stop with this bullshit, please? No? No, this is my life now? I'm blurry forever? Really? Like the camera gave up. What the fuck am I supposed to do? What the fuck is going on? Imagine someone who is joining the stream right now. Like this? The camera just gave up. Okay, great. The camera gave up. It's getting worse. All right, fuck that. Fuck that. If you're joining the stream right now, I hope you're enjoying yourself. The camera gave up. We have one person to cover, Zach, who is a beast of a beast. So I'm sorry, Zach, that you're going to be introduced in this shitty, blurry fashion. My bad. Because it's one of the best physique I've ever seen. So not only are you at the end of the stream, but you're also... Oh, it fixed itself. How? Insane. All right. Zach, you're on. Boom. So that is Zach during his second prep at the age of 19 when he was 174 pounds. Looking at this physique, this is someone that has what it takes, slash had what it takes, slash still does have what it takes. Super aesthetic. I noticed a very interesting imbalance in your legs. Did you have a knee injury? Because one VMO is like the size of my nutsack and the other one is non-existent. So I don't know what the fuck is going on here, but very tight waist, very developed core, is controlled, beautiful, good lats, big biceps at this age, good forearms at this age. The triceps are a little bit behind. Excellent chest, excellent shoulders. Like, if I could have looked like this at 19, I would have killed many a chicken, sacrificed many a chicken to the god of bodybuilding. And I think that I'm not the only one. And that is his first prep. So it's always interesting to look at people when they were quote unquote small. When Zach was around 65 pounds, this is what he looked like at the age of 17 again. Very narrow waist, very developed core again, great shoulders, and great biceps right off the bat. This is what people call genetic potential. And we see that this VMO imbalance was already there 2 years earlier. So you've always had that problem of being able to recruit the VMO of that leg. We'll see if this still continues because, of course, I have new pictures of Zach, who is now a whole unit of a man with like legs that are just absurd. Like your legs don't make sense. The sweep of the leg when they connect to the glute is just magnificent. You have a beautiful side chest, great shoulders, great traps, incredible forearms, great biceps. And again, yeah, that VMO issue, even when you're not lean, we can see that there's a problem here. So maybe it's something that you diagnosed already, Zach, but you might want to look into it. But this is what everyone wish they could look like when they bulk. I don't see much fat around that waist. And this is a proper bulk, by the way. You're supposed to gain size. I also see that the tricep issue that you had in your second prep was corrected. Now your triceps are very sweepy and they look very, very good. And your chest and shoulders were maintained. All right. That is a lat spread that would, like, imagine waking up during the night and you see this. If you need a scarecrow, just take a cut off of Zach and put it in your field, and no bird is ever going to mess with your crop. I guarantee you that. It's probably your best pose. Like, your quads are out of this world, incredible lats. You really have a very inspiring physique. Now, I don't know if this was at the same time period or not. Again, we see the quad imbalance. Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm supposed to be criticizing you. Sorry, I just was too worried, too busy admiring your physique. So honestly, looking at your body, I have nothing to say about your legs. They are insane. You have great shoulders. You have insane biceps. Your forearms are good. Neck. Can you train your neck? Because it's fairly small compared to what you have going on down there, and it would look amazing. So neck, your triceps are still slightly behind. So triceps, and then maybe upper chest. If I have to like really be an asshole about it. Okay. Then looking at your back, it's complete. I mean, we've seen the lats from the front. The lat spread was there. Now this is an aesthetic pose, so I can't really judge you on that. That's much better. So that back double bicep is much better. So again, we see you really corrected your tricep issue. You have good lats. You have very good traps. The neck is where it's at. Like, if I can tell you to do one thing, start isolating your neck, and it's going to make you look immediately better. Yeah, and this is like a very impressive, most muscular from the front. And let me stop at this picture, and I'm going to read you what Zach sent me, because he did send me a very interesting message with it. So Zach told me, he actually told me a lot of things. All right. So first, Zach had a lot of issues with hernias, and he got 6 hernias removed surgically. All right. For most people, that would be the death of their bodybuilding or like athlete careers. He recovered from that. He lost 40 pounds from the surgery, and he got most of that back. So already, like, congratulations for this. He says he has been focusing on his lats and arms, which your arms, like your lats, really, they look good to me. And he says, and he sent me his program, and he also, I think he told me at some point his points. You did tell me at some point something interesting that I did not read. Oh, because it was earlier. Okay. So, for the people who are like, because I didn't read the chat right now, I'm focused on Zach's physique, but for those of you who are like, well, there's no way he's natty. He's been lifting since he was 12, and he started competing in bodybuilding when he turned 17. He's currently 24. So he's been lifting for 12 years, and he's still competing. He says he's a lifetime natural, and I personally believe him. And he's continuing to make gains through adapting his methods of training, dieting, which is what you're supposed to do. And he's going to compete this summer. So he's in off season, and he's hoping to get his IFBB Pro card in 2025. And he says he knows it's ambitious because he's natural. Are there natural lifters who got their pro card? Yes, I know some of them. Are there natural lifters who win the biggest shows of the year? No. So Zach, just like being straight up, your physique looks beyond amazing. You still have room for improvement. But realistically, once you start to box with people who are supplementing their income with some like shady methods, it's going to be at some point the choice you'll have to make. Like, I'm not here to judge you if you decide to jump on drugs because bodybuilding is your dream. It would personally like make me sad because you are an amazing example of how big you can get as a natural lifter. But again, this is your life. So again, going back to your picture, great double bicep. I don't see why you would focus on arms. I mean, they're already there. Yeah, that was you when you were like leaner, and we see that the triceps had improved. That's a very, very good physique. Yeah, honestly, it's tough for me to even like formulate criticism of things to improve. I'm sort of a loss for wood, dude. Like, keep following your vision. I guess lats, triceps. If you get one thing from me today, it's going to be to tell you to just isolate your neck. But that's pretty much that. That back is insane. The separation is insane, and like everything is complete. Everything is covered. I would not be surprised to hear more about you in the coming future because you're going to win competitions. There's no way around that. Yep. So that's that for you, Mr. Zach. And the guy is not even a pro yet. Thank you for adding the yet. I would love to talk about it on maybe a podcast or something. And considering my duties, it would be difficult. But we'll talk and we'll see. I completely forgot that some people had sent questions on coffee. I'm sorry. I was so absorbed. But we just finished the physique review for today, guys. Chris, who asked, thoughts on doing nucleus overload on days where a body part is not being trained? Also wondering about exercises for nucleus overload in abs. Yeah, it's a valid method. For abs, you can use cable crunches, machine crunches. I would stay away from stuff that is going to also tax the hips, like weighted crunches. And he also says, I'm on a cut and realizing that my abs need to be developed. Should I go back on a bulk and focus on abs, or can I build abs while continuing my cut? Yeah, you can totally focus on still losing the fat and actually train directly your abs. That's sort of the beauty of the cut, is that your weak areas can still come up even without massive caloric surplus. Okay, and that is that. What is that noise? Is that a deer? Don't like that. NH, can I get a written review too for more detail? Sure, I can do that. No problem. All right, that's the end of the stream. It's going to be available for replay as always. If you want a written review, it's in the coffee page directly. So as I said, there was supposed to be an announcement on Wednesday, which will not happen. It's going to be on January 1st because I want to focus on making more content. That's going to be that. Thank you for everyone who have submitted their physiques. We had, again, a great batch of impressive physiques today. And the next one is going to be in February. I will be seeing you for the next stream. There's no philosophy stream this week. So next Saturday or Sunday, I'm not sure, there's going to be a story stream where I'm going to be telling you a new batch of story. But right now, I'm going to go train. I'm actually very excited for that. It's going to be a push and arm day. I'm going to wish you a good rest of your night, and remember to train hard and stay natural. Bisous.